哋而家咧正式開始今日嘅呢一個聯邦大選名嘴龍門陣啦，歡迎同各位咧係嚟到呢一度參加咧由安省華人參政委員會所主持嘅呢一個龍門陣嘅。咁咧或者我哋首先咧請參政會嘅會長陳家連咧同我哋講幾句説話先啦。
多謝 Mary。其實首先我要多謝楊婉文咧，好咧就特登抽咗時間出嚟去幫我哋主持個節目。另外一方面咧，我哋亦都好多謝Edwin 啦，樂希先生咧就幫我哋做呢個司儀嘅。咁其他嗰啲正式嘅再formal嘅致謝咧，我哋林立主席會講噶啦。我只係想講兩樣嘢。第一，今次嘅大選，我哋可以睇到個形勢本身嚟講咧，其實係好微妙。咁所以邊位勝出啦？咁我哋恭祝所有嘅候選人咧都係好運嘅，第一樣嘢。咁第二樣嘢咧就係今次嘅話明係叫龍門陣咧，就唔係一個嘅候選人嘅一個辯論會。咁所以我哋希望我哋所有嘅在座嘅嘉賓咧都可以放低咗呢個嘅概念，將佢變成一個可以為家國、為我哋嘅市民可以真真正正作出一個所謂正面嘅一啲嘅提議。咁同時咧喺部分咧分析下你自己對於呢個家國面臨嘅問題係啲乜嘢啊，同埋你覺得大選嗰陣時呢啲候選人本身嚟講咧係需要做啲乜啊等等。咁但係咧一陣我哋副主席咧阿力咧亦都會同你提其他嘢㗎啦。咁我首先喺度再多謝各位先嚇，多謝。
咁依家請參政會嘅名譽主席林立咧致辭㗎。
各位嘉賓、各位傳媒嘅朋友，喺聯邦大選前，喺咁短促嘅時間咧，我哋籌辦咗呢次名嘴大選龍門陣嘅論壇，咁得到在座各位嘅傳媒嘅朋友、著名嘅學者、政黨嘅代表以及華裔國會議員嘅候選人咁踴躍咁樣參加同埋支持，咁使到我哋本論壇成為城中國家爭鳴、各派雄辯嘅權威性嘅平台。我哋不設顏色嘅渲染，不設意識形態，不設觀點立場，更不要人身攻擊。我哋嘅目的就係希望大家暢所欲言，喺許可嘅時間之內言無不盡，並通過咗傳媒嘅宣揚，讓華人社區同埋主流社會能夠清楚了解你哋嘅意見、評論以及訴求，並通過你哋以身作則、現身說法，鼓勵華人出嚟參政議政。我哋熱切咁樣期望喺不久嘅將來，喺華人社區能夠形成一股參政議政嘅熱潮。如果講今日我哋嘅論壇能夠圓滿咁成功，完全係有賴各位嘉賓付出嘅寶貴時間以及充分嘅準備，讓我哋呢次嘅論壇能夠得到成功。我謹代表我哋本會嘅同仁，向各位嘅嘉賓致以衷心嘅感謝。多謝大家。
多謝林先生。跟住我哋請參政會嘅名譽創會會長黃超雲會長同我哋致辭。佢今日頭先喺度喎。
或者等阿力講先啦。
好，黃超雲頭先喺度嘅，唔緊要。咁我哋咧依家不如介紹一下出席嘅咁多位嘉賓先啦，係嘛？咁咧，我哋首先咧就係介紹一下在座嘅一啲嘅參選嘅候選人先。依呢一個嘅英文嘅 嘅 alphabetical order 啦。首先咧就係代表新民主黨喺萬錦市 Oak Ridges 選區嘅 Andy Arvin 鍾孟玉。跟住咧就係另外一位係代表係自由黨喺 Scarborough Adrian 及士嘉堡愛政角選區嘅 Jim Carey-Giannis。跟住係同一個選區嘅喺 Scarborough Adrian 嘅選區嘅劉炳順醫生 ，Welcome to Bachelor。然之後咧就係其他我哋仲有好幾位嘅候選人咧，佢哋會遲啲先至到嘅。咁咧包括咧就係有梁忠心啦，係代表保守黨㗎啦，以至到咧係代表自由黨嘅 Brian Wilford， 同埋係代表自由黨嘅 Leo Chamikovsky 㗎。咁咧除咗候選人之外咧，今日都有好多位係嚟自傳媒啦同埋社區界嘅人士咧。仲有一位咧係 NDP 嘅候選人係嚟自 Markham Unionville 嘅。Nadeem Hawkins，welcome。Welcome all these candidates to participate in our forum。咁除咗 candidates 之外咧，仲有係傳媒啦，同埋社區界嘅人士嘅。咁嚟自傳媒嘅咧就係有秦怡敬係 AM1430嘅節目主持，歡迎你。然之後有 Omni TV 嘅國賢先生。另外咧就係代表 North Star Time Weekly 嘅蔣安川先生，時事評論人古惠海先生，TorontoTV 嘅 producer 劉瑞安先生，美加華語電台呢個好似係好耐之前就係美加華語，應該係多倫多第一台係咪？如果冇記錯嘅。
多倫多華語電台。
多倫多華語電台係，可能你哋再賣多啲廣告先，更加清楚你個名啊！盧啟明先生，另外咧仲有時事評人文世昌先生，都市日報嘅總編輯同埋 AMS1540嘅總主持木兒先生。另外亦都係《星島日報》方面嘅史毅敏先生，另外就係有 World Association of Chinese Media 温世達先生。另外咧，除咗係傳媒同埋社區人士之外咧，我哋仲有一啲嘅嚟自華裔方面嘅政黨嘅代表嘅。咁咧分別就係有彭以德先生。一山先生，代表保守黨嘅。另外咧就係有袁海耀博士，代表自由黨嘅郭偉光先生，林鴻惠先生，同埋咧佢哋嘅自由黨方面嘅主席袁漢章先生。當然係有譚榮德嘅，不過仲未見佢出現嚇，咁啊希望佢一陣會出現啦。好，咁我哋咧就講一講依家今日嚟緊，我哋落嚟嗰個規例咧，就會請蕭振華咧同我哋講一講先嘅。
Hello， 各位好。首先咧，代表華人參政會多謝各位來臨。咁因為今日係龍門陣。咁咧就好可能會擦出火花，咁所以咧我哋大會咧就set up 咗啲 rule， 我就會將嗰啲 rule 咧就用英文講咗先，咁 and then 咧 after that 咧我就會用翻中文再復述。The objective of the forum is to focus on the current federal issue, opinion, and demand and probable proposition and recommendation. So therefore, we encourage positive assertion.Debate, but however, negative notion, argument, or personal attack is strictly prohibited. In case it happens, I'll be nice, but I'll be firm. And the forum is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, the media, as well as the community guests, is going to do a 2-minute presentation, and they will be in the order of the surname, alphabetical order of the last name.In ascending order. And then part 2 will be the candidate presentation, 3 minutes each, and they will be also in the last name order as well. And last but not least, it's going to be the free format discussion, and the order will be driven by the moderator, Mary Young. Hopefully, they will create a lot of interaction. The speaker can speak in any language that he or she chooses. So as long as the audience can understand. So in what I put down here is English, Chinese with Cantonese and Mandarin. So actually French is allowed as well. One thing that I need to emphasize, because we are trying to avoid, we're trying to communicate better. So at any time, there's only one person can speak. And the moderator will direct who's the next person to speak up. So there's a timing procedure, because everybody's time is important. In particular, we're sort of set back a little bit today. So for those 3 minute session, when it comes to the 2 minute, we have a green light. And when it's 2.5 minutes, it's going to be yellow light. And when it comes to the 3 minute, will be a red light. And at that time the red light is on, you have to wrap up. And we will make sure that you know you have to stop. For the 2 minute, the same rule, 1 minute green, 1.5 yellow, 2 minute red. So I'm going to repeat the same thing in Chinese. 因為咧今日龍門陣咧，咁可能咧就發出好多火花。咁我哋嘅大會咧就作出一啲嘅 rules and regulation。咁希望咧就大家咧就進行一個好 positive、好正面嘅對話。debate 係可以嘅，但係如果咧有啲咩係即係人身攻擊啊，或者 argue for argument sake 咧，咁我哋就係唔容許呢樣嘢發生嘅。咁啊，大會分開3部分，頭一部分咧就係 media 同埋 community 嘅代表咧2分鐘講話，咁係in呢個 alphabetical last name order。咁啊 part 2咧就係 candidate，part 3咧就係一個 free format discussion。個 order 咧就由楊婉文嘅 moderator 咧就 direct 嘅。咁你嗰個 speech 就可以係中文、英文、French 亦都可以。雖然我冇寫 French 喺個 rule 度 ，but the French is allowed。But you can speak any language， 你可以用任何嘅語言講 ，as long as 大會啲人可以understand 你所講嘅嘢。咁當正個有人講嘢嗰陣時咧，就希望一個人講嘢。如果你想講嘢咧，就要由呢個 moderator 楊婉文話俾你聽，你可以 go ahead 你先講。咁有個 timing procedure 計時啦。咁啊3分鐘嘅 session 咧就係如果2分鐘咧就有個綠燈，2分半就有黃燈，3分鐘就有紅燈。咁你就要開始咧，馬上結束你個講話㗎啦。咁如果你唔停嘅咧，咁我哋會有方法令到你停嘅。咁2分鐘嗰段咧又係1分鐘咧就綠燈，分半就黃燈，2分鐘就紅燈。So 有冇人唔明白個規例 ？Okay, so I shall pass the floor back to Mary.
好啦，咁我哋喺正式開始我哋呢一個嘅龍門陣之前咧，亦都想幫阿劉順安話一話俾大家知咧，今日嘅呢個龍門陣係會透過互聯網係轉播嘅。咁如果你哋唔想自己把聲係喺互聯網轉播嘅話咧，就請佢哋示意，咁佢咧會將佢把聲剪走嘅。好啦，咁正式開始，我哋首先咧就請各個嚟自傳媒界嘅代表咧講一講佢哋對今屆大選最關心嘅係咩議題啊，乜嘢嘅問題，佢哋係希望一啲嘅候選人回應嘅。咁根據佢哋嗰個英文嗰個名嘅次序咧，首先就請加拿大中文電台嘅秦怡經，你每人咧都會有2分鐘㗎。
Sorry。大家好，首先要澄清，雖然我有喺電台做節目，咁我今日就唔係代表電台發言，所有都係個人意見。今次嘅大選，我覺得到目前嚟講十分之沉悶，幾大政黨，包括4大政黨啦 ，run 緊一個好差嘅 campaign 喺我嘅意見裏面，因為咧似乎缺乏方向感。我覺得所有黨魁淨係識得話俾人聽，我係好過 另外嗰個人，我以往做得好好，但係其餘呢，我唔知道究竟點解我哋今次有一個大選，我唔知道有啲咩議題我哋選民需要授權俾，無論係保守黨或者自由黨，甚至新民主黨或者綠黨。保守黨淨係識得講我哋過往嘅政績會吸引華裔選民，究竟咩叫華裔選民？我亦都有喺其他嘅場合講過，我覺得呢個所謂族裔嘅選票係一個好危險嘅做法。係咪我哋作為華裔，我哋投票就劃一嘅呢？係咪等於我哋個個人因為我哋係有呢個族裔嘅背景嘅諗法係一樣呢？我覺得唔係，有一啲議題可能係我哋特別關心嘅，例如可能係中加嘅關係、移民嘅政策等等。但係其餘我哋關心嘅嘢，例如我哋整體經濟啊、國防啊，甚至總理成日都講到或者佢有含義講到嘅呢一個 Senate 上議院嘅改革，我哋一啲都冇聽過。但係係咪選咗佢出嚟之後，我哋又會聽到一啲我哋從來喺競選嗰陣時佢哋冇提過嘅嘢呢？上一次已經係咁樣，冇講過關於外交國防嘅嘢。卒之喺阿富汗，我哋就寫咗咁多家軍。我希望今次唔會再重現，同埋好多出嚟競選嘅候選人，似乎淨係搬翻佢哋黨魁講嘅一套。自由黨我哋唔明白咩叫 green shift， 有好多聽眾仍然打電話嚟話係啊，係咪會加稅？迪安話唔係，但係佢哋明唔明白係咪太複雜呢？究竟呢個計劃係點樣嘅呢？新民主黨有好多理念，但係究竟我哋聽唔聽到啦？每一個黨每一日都公佈好多關於錢嘅嘢，好濕濕碎碎。我希望除咗綠黨之外咧，似乎應該將會有一個 release 或者一個整體 platform 嘅 release。另外好多謝晒，
多謝晒你。好啦，跟住落嚟咧，請 TorontoTV 嘅郭賢先生。
我今天是代表我个人的意见来的，我是主要是来听听各位我们的这个参加我们今天这个论坛的一些嘉宾，他们每个人自己的这个想法。那我主要关注的几个问题呢，也主要是通过我们的节目，通过我们的采访，从我们的这个观众当中，当然特别是我们华人观众比较关注的几个话题。一个呢就是说，这个目前的这个经济状况啊，受到特别是美国的这个次房贷这个经济危机造成的这种对加拿大经济的影响。那么目前我们这个加拿大的经济呢，也是面临着一些困难。所以说，在这种情况下，我们三个政党究竟在这个经济政策上，除了能够有很多的承诺之外，谁能够有真正的能够解决目前挑战的这样的一个政策？另外呢，就是说还有油价方面等等，现在的油价是一个劲儿上涨，那我们各个政党能不能有正确的措施？我想老百姓关注的问题，也就是真正的就是这个谁能解决我们个人切身的利益？另外呢，就是说还有一个就是我们华人的这个 candidate， 就是华人这个候选人。那么我们华人社区是不是就是应该投票给华人的候选人呢？那么在这种情况下，我想通过我们今天的这样的一个论坛，也能够使大家能够有一个比较明确的这样的一个认识。还有呢，就是说这个 Green Shift 这样的一个保守的自由党的这样的一个政策，我想老百姓很多也没有真正的能够理解。那么在以后过程当中，是不是能够大家也有一个明确的认识？好，这就是我的意见，謝謝。
謝謝你。咁跟住我哋落嚟咧，就係請 North Star Time Weekly 嘅蔣安川。
Hello, my name is Antwan Jiang. Today I'm representing North Star Times and both myself. Okay, I have a few questions. So these are the questions or social issues that we are following all the time when we are writing reports about the 2008 election campaigns. The first is about the schools closure or the schools revival. This is one of the, I think, the biggest issue in Metro Toronto, in all the provinces and in the rural areas of Canada as well. When the demographics changes with the more people moving into cities, a lot of schools in rural areas being closed, and now also a lot of old towns or old city areas in metropolitan centers. Many schools are also being considered. closed. So this is one of the serious issues for many communities, and a lot of residents are quite concerned. So I want to know if each party's position or stand on this issue.
唔該，冇發言住，俾佢哋自己發言。
Okay, that's
一陣有機會俾你講。
okay. The other thing is the immigration. We have just passed our new immigration amendment to the law, and now it seems that the immigration policy is more employer-driven. It's not family-focused. So we are bringing a lot of new immigrants to work in this country. So we want to also know each party's stand on this issue, whether to be employer-driven or family-focused immigration policy. Okay, and the third one is the unemployment issue. As the manufacturing industry base is shrinking. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
一陣間有機會俾其他想講嘢嘅，我睇到你哋示意㗎啦。你哋一陣間有機會咧係 candidate 可以回應頭先蔣安川先生所講嘅。
我唔係想回應，我係想發表我，因為喺個選區咧有個 function 我要去，所以咧如果我可以，
你可以講先，
咁我就可以離開。
好，冇問題。好，冇問題。
OK， 唔好意思。咁我係劉炳順醫生，我係代表士嘉堡愛政各區出戰嘅呢個10月14號嘅聯邦大選。咁頭先咧幾位speakers 咧都問咗好多好有爭議性嘅問題。咁我哋保守黨咧政府咧呢2年半內咧，我諗個業績咧係有目共睹啦。我哋都係為個加拿大人服務就係有心有力嘅。咁唔使講啦，我哋華人社區個人頭稅13個月就要搞掂啦。人家十幾年都搞唔掂，我哋13個月咧就已經係所謂擺平咗呢個爭議性嘅問題。咁仲有咧就係減少入息稅啦，減少國債啦，增加醫療及警政資源啦。咁呢啲咧係對民生好有重要嘅政綱嚟嘅。咁呢個最緊要咧，最後咧就係喺呢個環球經濟收縮之下，我哋加拿大咧希望咧喺總理哈珀執政之下咧可以平穩過渡唔好似我哋鄰居咁樣，開始個個擔心自己份工有冇問題。So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Benson Lam. I'm representing Scarborough Region Court in the coming election. There's a lot of questions, I think, which is very appropriate in this forum. I hope it will come up with a solution that I could bring to Ottawa after October 14. For 2.5 years, Conservative government have done well for the citizens of this country, this great nation. Not without saying the head tax apology. We did well for the people of this country by reducing the tax, by reducing the GST, by reducing the national debt. We paid down 30 billions. That's very important because it removed a heavy burden from the government to have more money to spend for the citizens of this country. We also invest more resources in healthcare to reduce the wait time and more resources in law and order to give more money in education to help our young, to let them know crime doesn't pay. That's important because we are all immigrants. I think I'm an immigrant. I want to live in a place that's safe for myself, for my family, and for my grandchildren. And I think Prime Minister Harper has done well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. 咁我哋翻去傳媒界方面嘅發言啦。跟住落嚟咧，請時事評論人古維海先生。
各位朋友，我強調一點咧，我冇參加任何一個政黨就我嚟咗加拿大30年，我喺傳媒界做咗30年，經歷過 無數次嘅市選、省選、聯邦大選。咁我有一個深深嘅感觸就係、次次選舉華人嘅投票率都低，所以呢，如果你候選人去依靠華人聚集區想當選呢，就 work very hard。咁我根據2008年今年2月公布嘅2006年加拿大統計局嘅資料，全加拿大華人有1216570人，佔加拿大全國人口31241000人中嘅3.9%。照呢個比例嚟講，308席嘅國會議席裏邊應該至少有12席，可惜我哋得係3席，而3席裏邊咧得3個係純華人，其他2個係混血嘅華人，而且3席。
唔好意思，跟住係4席啊，有埋非人政團有一個係
OK， 我話 total 5席啊，5席有2席莊文浩同黃美蓮。唔係純華人，亦都唔係靠華人當選嘅。Manitoba 嗰個麥迪龍亦都唔係華人選區，都係陳卓瑜同我呢間州靠華人選區當選嘅。所以我哋諗下呢個數字啊，我唔係支持話華人一定要選華人，但係如果呢個區裏邊如果華人嘅候選人嘅 qualification 係 good，why not？ 我哋如果冇代表冇 voice，nobody care about your community。That's it。OK，thank you。
多謝顧偉學先生。我跟住落嚟咧就係劉啟明先生。劉瑞安先生，唔好意思。
Hello， 大家好，我係劉瑞安，多倫多網上電視嘅。咁呢個好似咧，隨佢點講係代表個人發言，就唔係代表我哋個 media。咁大家都知道啦，選舉成日都講選戰，選舉係一個戰爭 ，election is a war。呢個 war 咧比較斯文啲，係一個唔會流血嘅 war，a war without bloodshed，a war between parties、between candidates and between media。因為呢個36日嘅選舉期間咧，其實差唔多全國咧都係關注講election，而傳媒亦都爭相報導，大家都爭出多啲畫面去傳達呢個選舉信息。咁變咗咧，我哋就多咗好多人會關注呢個時間，亦都幫佢現有嘅執政黨好、反對黨好啦。因為平時你講好多 policy 冇人聽嘅，唯一而家 election period 咧 ，everybody listen to what you are saying。Also, it's a good chance for everyone to speak out and be heard. Right now, I'm trying to run a campaign called Council Vote Campaign to promote more voting from everybody in the country. Thank you.
好多謝劉瑞安先生，跟住落嚟係盧啟明先生。
大家好，我係盧啟明，我係代表多倫多華語電台。咁今日咧，雖然我代表電台出嚟，咁但係都係我自己嘅個人意見。係想總結翻一啲我自己聽到一啲聽眾嗰啲聲音啦。嗱，其實喺今屆嗰個大選，我好同意啦，係有幾位 speaker 所講，係十分之悶。到而家為止咧，冇一啲重要特別嘅議題咧，係令到我哋咧係會好關注呢一個大選。仲有一樣嘢就係咧，基本上我諗咧，好多我哋無論係華人嘅選人又好，又或者係我哋嘅一啲主流社會嘅選民都好咧，其實佢哋對於一個政黨嘅政策啊、政綱啊，甚至佢嘅理念咧，真係唔係咁清楚。咁究竟佢哋出嚟選嘅時候，會係選個人咧，定係選個黨咧？咁呢樣嘢我諗咧係個人有唔同佢哋自己嘅抉擇。咁可能咧，你睇到喺華人多嘅選區，佢哋會睇到呢個係華人嗰幅相，咁可能會去選個華人都唔定。咁但係究竟點樣可以爭取到佢哋出嚟投票咧？呢樣嘢我諗咧，大家係要每一個候選人好，每一個政黨都要好深入咁樣考慮一下，去諗下一個方法可以令到多啲人去參與去投票。因為其實去到而家為止，我哋睇唔到有任何一樣嘢令到我哋哇一聲係可以咧覺得有一個 talking point 出嚟，真係想去講。譬如好似自由黨嘅佢哋嘅碳稅計劃，而家咧已經係唔再講。佢哋而家咧轉態咧係講出嚟派錢。咁講開派錢咧，有少少想分享就係咧，我自己都 register 咗啦，每一個政黨佢 send 俾我嘅 email 嘅。但係每一次我開 email 嘅時候咧，就好好笑嘅。所有嘅字咧，我睇唔到有啲咩特別嘢要報導俾我哋自己嗰啲聽眾聽，但係咧就有一個字咧好突出嘅，就係動機，就 send 咗嚟俾我哋，就叫我哋去籌錢捐錢。 喺呢個時間咧，你仲叫人去捐錢咧？如果我係一個選民嘅話，我見到一個咁嘅 email 咧，我真係頂到檔前。咁我希望咧，整個政黨都會係睇呢樣嘢。
唔該曬你，劉啟明先生。跟住我哋請時事評人文世昌先生。
各位好，我自己先説完咧，就係話今次嘅大選咧，我唔贊成喺呢個時間咧就講話好沉悶，因為沉悶咧唔係我哋決定嘅，而係整個社會、整個國家決定。我覺得呢個選舉咧係好重要嘅選舉啊！重要嘅原因有兩點，第一點咧就係話我哋今次如果選咗一個總理出嚟，佢帶我哋去咩方向咧？如果你大家小心啲去睇睇咧，就阿哈珀如果能夠當選繼續連任咧，其實係對嗰個整個國家對佢一個 referendum 嚟嘅，即係對佢個人能唔能夠繼續執政咧？或者從一個少數政府變成一個大多數政府咧，呢個係一個好重要嘅改變啊！好重要嘅改變。第二點咧就係話我哋睇到自由黨推出碳稅，而碳稅根據我嘅睇法咧，就係一個好重要嘅稅收嚟嘅嚇。即係無論佢最重要嘅目的係環保都好啦，佢係可以講係80年代無論以嚟嗰個 free trade 嘅自由貿易以嚟咧，係最有革命性嘅一次嘅選舉啊！如果大家重要嘅話咧，如果佢唔收翻咧，當然咧呢個就係好決定性啦，收翻就唔同。跟住咧，我想講咧，今次咧大家要留意一點咧，就係話呢個會嘅目的咧就係華人參政嘅討論會。我希望咧大家留意到咧就係華人參政嗰個目的係乜嘢咧咁樣。我覺得頭先嗰位學生講得好啱嘅，因為我哋每個華人咧都係一個公民嚟嘅，我哋嘅公民有公民力量，但我睇到咧。嗰個代表性係非常之低嘅即係喺國會裏邊，今次大家選舉係選國會議員，係選咗個了解我哋華人聲音、華人嘅訴求嘅議員大家係咪喺個希望一個外國人或者係唔操我哋語言嘅人咧，係更加明白我哋咧？我哋呢點我覺得請大家深思下。第二點咧，佢可以作為一個橋梁，呢個橋梁咧係可以將華人嘅聲音咧、華人社區嘅聲音咧係帶入個國會。第三咧就係佢可以製造一個選舉嘅力量。
好，多謝你，文世昌先生。好，跟住請阿陸賢先生。
首先我都係聲明，我唔代表星島日報，亦唔代表我哋嘅電台節目嘅。咁今日我頭先聽到幾位先生嘅講話咧，我覺得缺乏一啲國語嘅聲音，所以我都用翻國語嚟表達嘅。剛才我聽到幾位前面的秦怡靜，還有文世昌說這次大選呢，有他秦怡靜認為是比較悶，那個文世昌認為是不是很悶？但我覺得呢，這次選舉呢，不單止很悶，而且華人社區都很悶，包括今天的會議我都覺得很悶。為什麼這麼說呢？我們今天是一個華人論壇的大選論壇的一個會議。我們是在北約科遠離了華人社區，關了門，除了下面是媒體，上面都是媒體。我們所講的，我看不到，就是說這種聲音，就是說，如果媒體不把這些聲音傳出去，或者是我們這參政者不能夠把聲音在民間裡面體現出來的話，那麼這種聲音呢，就不能夠真正表達我們這個加拿大社會參選的真正的意義。如果每次參選我們都在說我們的華人投票率低，但是我們的華人的社區投入在這個選舉中，我們投入了多少力量呢？很多像金還有劉醫生，他們都知道他們的選區有很多華人，但是我們就這麼一個規模的討論會，這麼一個規模的華人參政的演講會，卻居然是除了媒體還是媒體。這個現象就應該讓我們覺得深思，我們確實是聲音太孤立，確實是聲音太封閉，而且是像國語的聲音只有1、2把，也是太孤單。所以我覺得這個問題應該引起我們在座的深思。謝謝。
謝謝你，蘭先生。跟住嚟請史毅文先生。
I'm an independent commentator, so just speak for myself. I want to say only one thing. Thank you for all the candidates, and thank you for all the incumbent MP who seeking for re-election. I know this is the only period that you guys are getting busy, so it's not easy to make you guys sit here and talk to us. And my colleagues in the media industry already put so many questions, and I think you already have enough hard time to answer them. So that's all I should say. Thank you.
多謝你。跟住落嚟咧，我哋係請温世達先生。
今次嘅大選咧，我就俾我 remind 我咧，就1993年嘅時候，保守黨咧曾經喺一個領導嘅政權裏邊咧，突然間陰溝翻船，全國剩翻2席。咁點解我咁講咧？其實競選呢啲嘢係非常之微妙，特別係喺最後嗰個衝刺嘅時刻咧，係最令人出人意表嘅。好似阿古先生講，我哋嚟咗呢度差唔多40年，大小嘅競選亦都親身經歷過唔少。咁我希望咧，今次嘅競選唔因為嗰個即係時間嘅匆促，係令到嗰啲候選人產生好大嘅困難。嗱，一般嚟講，如果時間不足咧，特別對嗰啲新出嚟競選嘅人咧，有好大嘅不利。譬如佢哋拍門都未拍得夠，咁你要所有嘅 voter 去選佢，呢個係中間好大嘅困難。咁如果另一個問題就係話，我哋究竟係選黨定係選人呢？如果人我哋唔了解佢嘅個性，唔了解佢一向做事嘅方針，我哋點樣去選呢？咁一切呢一啲嘢呢，都係影響到嗰個最後嗰個結果嘅。咁我希望呢，今次嘅競選雖然係咁微妙，但係我哋仍然睇到嗰個所謂個成績表遞翻出嚟，就睇到嗰個民心嘅向背。大致上嚟講呢，即係我有一點想即係分析下嘅就係話，喺過往三個月裏邊呢，保守黨係用咗240幾億元。
好，多謝你温世達先生。好啦，而家咧我哋係請候選人發言㗎。咁啊，每人咧會有3分鐘嘅發言時間啦。Now we introduce the candidates to speak to us or react to some of those comments which the media people have mentioned about the election. So first of all, Mr. Andy Arafint from NDP.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say an introductory speech first. And then I'll be in Mandarin. 各位好，我是钟文宇，我是新民主党在 Oak Ridge Markham 区选区的候选人。今天呢，我在这个议会，我会解释新民主党对移民特别有好处的政纲，就是 Foreign Accreditation and 和环保的就业。那究竟我觉得很多人开始觉得新民主党在国会做了非常好的工，在这个公选呢，选民有机会帮一个要实现你们的理想的一个党投一票，谢谢。
谢谢 ，Thank you. Now we have Mr. Duncan Fletcher. He's not here, but he has a soundbite recorded for.
Can I have the track too?
Hello everyone, this is Duncan Fletcher. Dagaho, oh hi, Duncan Fletcher. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person today, but I'm glad you're there and I'm glad you're listening because we got some decisions to make as Canadians. We have a choice to make between two different ways of looking at the country and two different ways of running a country. For the last 2.5 years, the Conservative Party has produced many pieces of significant legislation, probably more than the previous Liberal government did in about 13 years. On the immigration front, we've cut the landing tax, we've begun to streamline the immigration process to reduce a ridiculously long lineup. We've increased settlement funding, and we've gone a long way to reducing what is apparently now a 6-year wait just to get an answer, yes or no, whether you can come into the country. There's almost 1 million people who are waiting for an answer. That's too long. We're having highly skilled, hardworking, honest people who want a better life for themselves and who could be of great benefit to Canada. But they're going somewhere else because of a wait that's been allowed to happen. That could have changed. Progress could have been made before we got into government, but it didn't happen. We took action though. On the military front, for almost a decade, the military had been cut to the bone. We sent troops to places that were dangerous, and we sent them with inadequate equipment. We've begun to reverse that trend now. We're boosting spending so that we can defend ourselves also, and probably more importantly, we can defend others who need defending. We can produce humanitarian efforts that we couldn't before. On the leadership front, the Conservatives have strong, decisive leadership with Stephen Harper. He's brought forth realistic spending options in this campaign and before, and responsible economic stimulation to help us compete if we have to go through tough economic times. Versus the Liberal leadership, who's run by Stéphane Dion, who's having a hard time even keeping his party together. Economically, he still has $700,000 of debt outstanding from a leadership convention almost 2 years ago. Money he spent but didn't have and couldn't pay back. This is the person who's asking us to trust him with an economy, of a country no less. When I go to Ottawa, I'll be working with Stephen Harper to get things done. My opponent, Markham Unionville, will be answering to Stéphane Dion and his weak leadership. As a bonus to the people of Markham Unionville, I also live in that riding, versus my opponent, who has always lived in Oakville. I think it's important to have someone who lives locally. I think you can understand the problems of a community, the concerns, their aspirations. People of Markham Unionville will know that I have a vested interest in making things better for my family and for yours. Conservative government will continue to defend our economy and the businesses in it in a responsible manner.
Okay, time's up. Please stop it, because we have to be fair for everyone, okay? And then now we would like to introduce the NDP candidate for Markham Unionville, Ms. Nadine Hawkins. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be with you today. Stephen Harper and the Conservatives have made it clear who they put first. They act on behalf of the boardroom table, not your kitchen table. Stephen Dion has propped up the Conservatives on 43 non-confidence votes. Stéphane Dion and the Liberals don't understand the difficulties ordinary Canadians are facing. His carbon tax will drive up the cost of home heating fuel, electricity, and gasoline, and it will not meet greenhouse gas targets like cap and trade will. Voting New Democrat means putting working families first. We'll ensure companies are motivated to keep jobs in Canada. We'll invest in companies that provide training and are innovating in the new energy economy and green-collar jobs. We'll invest in your kids so that they can get the education they deserve without mortgaging their future. We'll institute tough monitoring and regulation of fuel prices, cap credit card rates at Prime +5, stop unfair ATM fees, and stop unfair cell phone fees. Jack Layton and I will follow in Tommy Douglas's footsteps by expanding Medicare to include prescription payments and dental care for all seniors, and pay for prescriptions due to catastrophic illness. We will increase training positions for doctors and nurses, and invest in home care and long-term care. Over the last 10 years, Liberals and Conservative governments have quietly shifted Canada's immigration policy toward one where poorly paid and often abused foreign temporary workers get priority over family class or permanent resident applicants. The backlog of immigrants has grown from 700,000 to over 900,000 people. Jack Layton and I will speed up family reunification and ensure fact-based appeals for refugee claimants. I've met specialist doctors on welfare and immigrants enticed by job offers that disappear when they arrive. Don't let them tell you that it has to be this way. On October 14th, I'm asking for your support.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nadine Hopkins. And now it's the turn of Mr. Jim Karagianis, who is a Liberal candidate for Scarborough-Aitken County. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, and thank you to everybody for putting this together. It's important that we listen to what the community needs and what the community wants. I don't think you have to be a particular ethnicity to represent another ethnicity. We all come to this country, we all came with visions and aspirations, and some of us put ourselves in a political forum in order to represent our constituents. However, in this election, it's about who do you trust? Who do you trust to be a good manager? I want to go historically a bit. When the Liberals took office, we had $43 billion in deficit. This is deficit yearly. We had a debt which was ballooning. We wiped that out, and for about 10 consecutive years, we were the pride of the G8. No more deficit, we were paying down the debt. Just recently, folks, we slipped back into deficit, $500 million. So for those that tell you that Mr. Harper is a good manager, I would say to them, do the math. Another thing that I would like to talk about is justice. Yes, the Conservatives talk tough for time, but when it comes to action, when it comes to delivery, absolutely nothing. Scarborough-Aitken Court was infested with grow houses. I took the lead, marijuana grow houses. I put myself on the line. When I brought forward measures in order for us to make sure that we get rid of this menaces, what did the Conservatives do? They folded the Liberal government. They've been in power for 2.5 years. Absolutely nothing of this was addressed. Now, my favorite subject, immigration. There's facts and figures, and then there's reality. Reality is that Canada is a country of choice for many immigrants. Reality is, when the Conservatives took office, immediately, family class sponsorship within Canada went up within 2 years. If you're sponsoring your wife, you can wait up to 2 years. This was proven, never challenged. Immigration out of Beijing. 48% longer to immigrate to this country within the first year. 7% longer within the second year. Proven. Put in committee, put in the House of Commons, my figures were never challenged. And now to boot. Do you think that immigration applications increased from China? No, they decreased by 41%. People just couldn't wait until this government would to that end. And then the Conservatives come in and say, we're going to give you Bill C-50, it's going to solve everything. Why did the minister not ask the committee to do consultations? Why did the minister ram this down our throats? And then the minister holds closed-door meetings. We're going to solve everything. Absolutely nothing. But the worst thing that Harper did, for 2.5 years he's been Prime Minister. He's never went to China. The Olympics.
Time's up. Thank you, Mr. Jim Karagianis. And now we have Mr. John McCollum, who is not able to come, but he has taped his recording.
Hello, my name is John McCallum, Member of Parliament for Markham Unionville and Liberal candidate for re-election. I'm very sorry I can't be with you today, but I had other commitments. And naturally, I would hope to persuade you all to vote Liberal. And why would that be? Well, first of all, I would mention the state of the economy. We are in difficult, troubled times. And I believe that the Liberal record in the past and in the future is such that we are the best ones to manage the economy, protect jobs, create jobs in the future. I would argue that the Liberal Party is the only party of the center, the party of balance. On the one hand, we believe in paying down debt. We inherited a $42 billion Conservative surplus in 1993, and under Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien, we converted that to surplus and paid down debt for 10 years in a row. And this is in our DNA. We will continue in that mode in a new Liberal government. The Conservatives inherited a $12 billion surplus. They squandered it, and we're now on the verge of deficit under their economic management. We also believe in broad-based income tax cuts, and in the context of our green shift. We have substantial reductions in corporate tax and also in personal income tax, so that the typical family of 4 will receive an income tax cut of between $1,000 and $2,000. You could check that out on www.thegreenshift.ca tax calculator. You can see what your own tax cut will be. So that's the first part. We believe in paying down debt. We believe in broad-based income tax cuts. But at the same time, when the economy is weak, when people are suffering, we believe in reaching out to assist and support sectors and individuals who are in trouble, notably the manufacturing sector, which has been hemorrhaging jobs to the tune of 200,000 lost jobs since Stephen Harper came to power. We have $1 billion fund to invest in manufacturing, whereas the Conservatives will do nothing. We also will support farmers and fishermen in their efforts to adapt to a high energy price economy. And we have a huge infrastructure program. We believe in the necessity of federal role in association with mayors and premiers to...
Okay, time's up, thank you. This is Mr. John McCollum from the Markham Union Fields, a Liberal candidate. And now we'll have the Liberal candidate from Oak Ridges Markham, Lou Timokovsky. Mr. Lou Timokovsky, you have 3 minutes.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me. Ni hao. I was 13 years old when I came to Canada. I didn't speak one word of English, much like many of your listeners. We came from Macedonia, and in Canada I've learned to speak English, I've learned to speak Italian, and some French. And I think I should be learning Mandarin as well. I say that because Canada, my Canada, is no different than your Canada. Many of the people that have come from China feel very much like my father and mother and myself did, and my family. We came here, my parents came here for me, as many of you have come here for your children. And when we look at the policies of the parties, we look at the policies of Trudeau, of immigration, of multiculturalism, and we look at policies which are inclusive policies, and we look at policies on the other side which are not so inclusive. The relationship between China and Canada were started in the 70s and flourished very well. While we have some differences, we continue to sit at the same table and discuss the differences as well as the similarities. What we see right now is that the Canadian government is not sitting at the table, and shame on them. They ought to be sitting at that table. If they're not sitting at the table, we're not getting much done. The dreams of those parents and children that have come to Canada, such as my family, will not be fulfilled when you have a partner that's not willing. Now, when we're talking about leadership, and the leadership question has been asked, if your definition of leadership is saying we will not appoint anyone in the Senate and then appoint somebody, the leader is Harper. When you have somebody that says we will not touch income trust and then touch it, the leader is Harper. But when you have somebody say something and do it and mean it and do it with passion, it's Stéphane Dion. That's the leadership that we've been known to have in Canada through Liberal governments.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now it's a turn for different political parties' Chinese representative. Now we have the Canadian Conservative Party first。請其中一位加拿大嘅華人保守黨嘅代表發言啦。你哋邊一位想發言啊？不如彭爾德啦，頭先彭爾德有嘢講係咪？2分鐘啊，唔該。
我係彭爾德。我相信大家都好了解我哋中國人有個古仔叫做朝三暮四。有個人養咗 a person， that's an old Chinese story。A person was raising a whole bunch of monkeys. And when things were tough, he went to the monkey and said, from now on, we have to ration the nuts. That you will get 3 in the morning and 4 in the evening. So the monkeys turned around, protesting that this is not fair. So the owner went to them again and said, okay, I'm listening. Now you're going to get 4 nuts in the morning and 3 in the evening. And everybody was happy. 喺我睇所謂呢個 green shift 呢個政策嗰時咧，我冇辦法唔諗到呢個朝三暮四呢個故仔。green shift 當一個政府將佢嘅手伸到你嘅口袋喺入邊攞錢嗰時咧，一定係一個稅嚟。It doesn't matter what you call it, green shift or brown shift, whatever. It's tax 係稅嚟。我睇到呢一個名稱就令我諗起朝三暮四呢個名詞。嗰個自由黨話俾你聽，我朝頭早喺你嗰度攞咗100蚊嘅稅，我晚黑會俾翻你唔止100蚊，我會俾翻你300蚊。呢個人令我諗到呢個朝三暮四嘅故仔。假如我在你那邊借了100塊錢，我吃了個早飯，坐了車，買了份報紙，我晚上還可以還你300塊錢的話，我不知道大家覺得這個是可信還是不可信。
Okay, time's up. Thank you.
呢1蚊啦係減輕翻即係納稅人嗰個稅項嘅。換言之，呢個係一個叫 neutral tax，OK， 係中和性嘅稅，係政府本身啦係冇收入嘅 ，OK， 最終咧係還富於民 ，OK， 而且每年啦，我哋嗰個即係Auditor General 咧會核對個數目 ，make sure 係打咗1蚊嘅稅，呢1蚊咧就係還翻俾即係一個納稅人。OK， 減輕佢哋嘅稅項，所以呢一方面咧，彭生咧係完全咧去話100蚊嘅稅又還翻300蚊，完全係錯嘅。OK， 咁另外咧，我想咧即係再講一講啦，就係呢一個即係 green shift 嚟講啦，係世界上好多即係先進國家，尤其是好似挪威呢一個丹麥瑞典呢啲已經實行咗好多年。而且佢個經濟咧係一路咧蓬勃增長嘅。咁呢個其實嚟講咧係一個大勢所趨即係加拿大而家咧係實行咧係正在係一個即係適當嘅時候。
OK， 繼續啊，多謝你，阮漢章先生。好啦，我哋而家進入咧第3部分嘅共同嘅討論啦。咁頭先咧睇到唔少嘉賓所集中嘅其中一個焦點就係究竟我哋華裔嘅選票係咪需要投翻俾華人呢？華人嘅投票率點樣可以喺今屆大選上面呢係可以係打破過往嗰個投票率低嗰樣嘢呢？陣間我哋都想討論一下啦。另外呢，就係都想，不過首先想睇一睇呢，如果我哋係想即係谷啲華人出嚟投票嘅話呢，我哋係咪要睇邊一個政黨係能夠保障到華人嘅利益呢？咁有鑑於咧，無言都話呢個會議都比較沉悶些少，所以咧我都希望咧可以更改一下依家嗰個程序咧，我哋就唔限每人2分鐘嘅發言。邊一個想講嘅話咧，你舉手俾我示意俾你，或者如果我覺得我呢樣嘢我想掉俾邊一個去回應嘅話咧，我就會請你發言嘅，好冇？咁咪住先，我咧第一個問題咧，我想掟俾 Jim Carrianis 嚟開始嘅。Mr. Jim Carrianis, we would like to talk about, first of all, we would like to see which party can protect the Chinese interest more, and we will go on to see how to increase the sort of Chinese votes, and we will put forward a question to you first, and then we will slightly change the procedure. If you want to, raise a question or discuss the issue, you can just raise your hand to us and we will get off the 2 minutes limit for everybody. So first of all, you mentioned about the C-50 bill. If you are that concerned, or your party is that concerned about Bill C-50, why then Liberals oppose Bill C-50 and bring down the government? Is your party's fortune more important than Chinese immigrants or other immigrants' rights?
The committee which I belong to asked the minister to allow the committee to have hearings cross-country in order for us to hear the changes that the people wanted. The minister rammed this down our throats on a budget bill. We had said that we will be supporting the budget, and then the minister, when the committee was having hearings on refugees of Iraq, undocumented workers, the minister found an opportunity to sneak this into the budget. Having said that we would be passing the budget, we came up with changes to the Immigration Act. We asked the minister to let these changes, the committee listened to the people of Canada. Unfortunately, the minister said, do or die. And then the minister went around and had hearings after that on the immigration bill that were closed-door meetings. Immigration is very important to this country. It's the backbone of this country, and way less.
So is that important? Why didn't your party oppose the bill?
Well, if it's that important, I would say to you that it's more important to see what's happening with undocumented workers. We have in Canada undocumented workers that have been here either legally or illegally, and the committee had instructed the House that we have a moratorium on deporting people until the committee came up with hearings. I went into the House, I put a unanimous motion on the floor. It was about to pass that we don't deport people, except one person jumped in and said, no, I object to it. And that person was nobody else, but a drink-pinking socialist individual of the NDP party. And that's Olivia Chow.
Okay, who else? I wanted to see Mr. Asian.
好多時咧就競選嘅時咧，我哋睇到好多候選員咧就講你想聽嘅嘢。咁我記得嗰陣時，我啱啱開始競選嘅時咯，媽媽話叫我仔啊，你唔好參選啊，因為參選咧就喺政治壇咧好多污糟邋遢嘅嘢嘅。咁樣之後咧，當然啦，嗰時我唔係好清楚啦，咁嗰時新仔咁啊，但係。我哋而家越嚟越睇到，好似頭先啱問嗰個問題啦。頭先啱問嗰個問題啦，點解嗰個標 C50？點解自由黨好多人嚟噶嘛？即時好容易啦，就可以選到我哋保守黨落台嘅。正式投票嗰時咧，佢哋唔投票，但係而家競選嗰時咧就呱嘅話，標C50咧就好唔掂啊，係乜唔掂。但係要你睇清楚。喺政綱嗰時，更加喺我哋大會嗰時，成個黨投票嗰時，啲人唔出面，點解呢？係咪驚？如果係咁樣做啦，會影響佢哋嗰個黨大選嘅時啦，會輸呢？因為我哋要選民要睇清楚，係咪我哋某一個黨派以前係做得好，同埋而家呢，係咪嗰個做嘅功夫係咪做得更好呢？
It's very interesting to hear from an individual that has run for politics and he's got some opinions. However, as far as C-50 is concerned, it was a flawed bill. This was pointed out. As far as immigration of the Conservatives was, certainly did not run very smoothly. Times were increased, and the Conservatives had a policy of not inclusivity, but they had a policy of pitting one community against another community. And trying to divide people.
It's such a broad bill. Why didn't Liberals oppose it and bring down the government?
Like I said to you before, we had made a commitment to support the budget. This was part of a budget bill. Having made that commitment.
Is it more because of your party's fortune as what Alex Yan said?
Certainly, we said that we were not going to have a debate, but if you want to debate,
now we are changing it to a debate issue.
It is, and unfortunately, it's coming from your end. It was a budget bill, like I said. We promised to support the budget. We supported the budget. One of the things that we said that once the Liberal government gets returned into power, this bill C-50 has got it. It's gone. It will have more positive things in how to unite families and how to bring family class applications. Folks, it takes up to 10 years, and this thing is growing under C-50 in order to unite family members. If you sponsor your parents from China, see you in 15 years, as the Conservatives are going.
Thank you, Mr. Kajanis. Mr. Andy?
Thank you.
Arvin?
是，我也觉得，自由党讲的就是 committee 什么什么，就是非常无聊。Because 我跟周志慧一起在做义工，在他的办公室。那我们一直都我帮他 organize 过一个 press conference 记者会。Now, so I know the issue. If the Liberals had indeed been so concerned about immigration issues, about the conservative, implementation bill, why did they not bring down the government? The bill contains a lot of flaws. One of the issues is the cheapening of immigrant labor, because what the bill allows is the fast tracking of certain, based on employers' decisions. And obviously this will, in terms of short-term labor, and this will exacerbate the immigrants' plight, because every time the employers want to renew their short-term contract, they'll just go to the minister and say, hey, let's extend these requests, and they will. And so the immigrants will never get a fair sort of permanent residency, and then later on immigration, and then later be a PR, and then a citizen. It's a cheapening of labor.
Okay, so. Thank you. Mok Yin. Thank you. You will have your turn, Mr. Jim.
我想直接问Jim，就是我们都一直知道，就是说这么多年来，自由党在说对移民是好的。那么我们也相信，如果我们要相信自由党确实是对移民好的，如果我们相信迪安是一个有责任心的、有责任感的国家领导人的话，那么为什么在C50案的时候，自由党是反对这个案子的？周志慧也代表了要求一块来反对这案子的时候，但是作为一个党领或作为自由党的一个这么有负责人，却因为不想大选而去让这个法案通过，到现在迪安又重新要求许诺会拨很多的钱，而且去表达了反对这C50案的案件。那么让我们如何相信？如果我们相信之前C50案的迪安是有责任心，那么现在的迪安我们怎么评价他呢？如果我们现在相信现在的迪安是有责任心的，对移民好的，那之前的迪安又如何评价呢？谢谢。
So we give you another turn, and then we'll move on to another topic.
Thank you. I want to respond to something that the NDP said that immigrants come into this country and then have to go back to the ministry to get a thing. If an immigrant comes to this country, you're an immigrant, period, full stop. And I wish that my friend learns a little bit of facts and figures before he starts saying that an immigrant comes and he's a temporary worker. An immigrant is an immigrant, period, full stop. He comes in, she comes in, he has all the rights, except for the next 3 years she can't vote or be voted upon. As far as C50 is concerned, how many times do I have to repeat the same message? We had promised to support the budget. This was a budget bill. We supported the budget, and then the committee worked on it. The committee was rope tight to bring this bill and pass it quickly. I was there. I spent the hours and spent the time, as well as trying to bring people like yourselves to come and speak in front of the committee. I remember, Tom, you came from the committee, you supported the bill, a very flawed bill. And other people came and opposed it. This particular bill, as we have said, will die as soon as the Liberal government comes back in. Family waiting times of 10 to 15 years to reunite parents and children is unethical. It's unmentionable, and it's certainly not something that the Conservative Party can wave its banner and say we care about families. They don't.
Thank you, Mr. Jim Perry. Now we move on to the topics of economy. Now in this election, everybody's concerned about which party can handle the economy well. So why don't we just go for because we know that Mr. Lou Tomaskowski, you're going to leave early. Why don't you just let people, tell people how can we trust that Dion is a capable leader to lead us into this sort of economic uncertainty? Because people just, we just get it that not everybody trusts that he's sort of strong leader to lead us into uncertainty.
Well, I think the question of leadership is I mentioned it earlier. If the leadership, the definition of leadership is, saying one thing and doing another thing, Harper has that. He's the leader. But if you want a leader that says one thing and does the same thing, then there's no question we've got Dion as the leader. So the leadership question is put aside for me. And I think for most of your listeners as well. Now, in terms of the economy, you see where it's gone already. 2 years, and we're almost broke. Very simple. I'll speak to you very simple. That 2 years ago, we had surpluses. Now we're ready to be in a deficit. Number one. Number two, if you have the Minister of Finance say to the nation and to the international world, the last place he would invest is Ontario, that's not leadership for me. And how can you expect the economy to be looked after by the other side? When we had Paul Martin as Minister of Finance, he brought in surpluses after surpluses after surpluses after surpluses, after being left with nothing from the Mulroney time. So I think the record speaks for itself. Most Canadians can figure it out.
Absolutely.
But you know what? The other side the Conservatives have spent an awful lot of money to tell people that Stéphane Dion is not a good leader and the economy belongs to the Conservative Party. It doesn't.
Okay, thank you. It's time for the Conservative to react.
First of all，最先我要提一提嘅，先頭有幾位先生提到話保守黨將赤字喺13年前交俾自由黨，呢個歷史係加拿大嘅國債係幾時開始咧？係自由黨執政 Trudeau 做總理嗰時開始有國債。我哋保守黨最大一個，我哋中國人都有所謂藏富於民。我哋上台之後 ，GSC 改咗2%，國債還咗幾乎400億。如果你話呢個政府係喺經濟方面、喺預算方面係唔負責嘅話，呢個話就好難講啦。
陳世昌，你講。
我想回應一點就關於嗰個頭先提到咧，就話嗰個而家嘅政府咧，如果再執政落去咧，就會即係 broke 啦，頭先話講到。咁我就覺得呢樣嘢係好唔負責任嘅講法，因為而家我哋未見到嗰個政綱啊，未見到個整個經濟嘅情況，支出收入亦都未知道。不過因為Harper 咧係減咗 GST 嘅時候咧，本來應該可以好多錢用嘅，佢而家就變咗要更加小心，就唔可以再派錢派得咁容易。第二點咧就係話嗰啲錢其實係市民嘅錢，就去翻邊度咧？其實都去翻市民嗰度。佢哋知道譬如 GST 喺消費方面嗰啲中產階級嘅消費可以減少咗個稅收，其實去翻佢哋嘅袋度。Harper 所講嗰個所謂小政府就大市場，同埋加埋咧就係佢講到一個聯邦咧係新聯邦主義咧，啲錢咧係去翻不同嘅省份度嘅。其實每個省份咧喺佢執政嘅時候咧係多咗錢嘅，呢啲錢其實都係去翻我哋每個市民嗰度嘅。所以公道啲講句咧 ，Harper 嘅理財方面咧並唔需要我哋擔心佢係一個謹慎理財嘅一個政府。不過自由黨亦都有佢嘅良好嘅記錄佢記錄就係長時間係抗拒呢個赤字，而且咧係過去有個好好嘅成績。今次我哋選擇咧就應該睇清楚兩個黨出嚟嘅政綱，睇佢哋兩個黨點樣能夠渡過我哋如果經歷過美國呢個咁嘅情況之下，我哋加拿大人要點樣去更加警覺去渡過難關。如果係真係出現經濟下滑嘅時候，呢個先仲重要啲
Okay, Mr. you want to respond?
When you're doing business with somebody, in the business world or country to country, you certainly reach out to that individual and you go and speak to them and you make sure that the relationship between your business or the countries are serving something which is flourishing and something that there's an open channel. Our largest trading partner is the United States. When Mr. Harper was elected as Prime Minister, he ran down to the United States and spoke to Mr. Bush Our second largest trading partner as a country is China. To this date, although Mr. Harper has been encouraged and pushed by previous prime ministers to go to China, he has not done that. I remember when we met at OPEC, they sort of like passed each other in the washroom. China should have been encouraged to join the G8, China and India. I wrote to the Prime Minister along with other colleagues and said, look, make sure that we take China under our wing and push them forward for them to join the G8. Nothing happened. Not only that, but the Prime Minister didn't even have the courtesy to go to the Beijing Olympics. We had previous commitment. Well, I'll tell you one thing, the Beijing Olympics were put there before the Conservative Party came to power. So if you don't respect your second largest trading partner, it's like you're saying to them, you don't care. And if you don't care, why should they trade with you? If you don't care, why they should want to do business with you? Folks, it is you, this community, that is driving our trade with China. It's not the Conservative Party, and you are to be congratulated. So what we need, we certainly need a government in order to drive the industry, to drive the engine, which is called the economy with China, if we're to succeed. This is what we need to focus on. Yes, politics is important, but also if you don't have food to put on your table, if this country doesn't engage in China, and China business with them, unfortunately we have failed.
Thank you, Jim Carriganis, for distracting us to the Canada and China relationship, which we will mention about and we will discuss about it later on. But we want to concentrate on the economy first. NDP's candidate, please tell us. NDP's promises are full of billions and billions dollars of promises. How can we afford such kind of promises in times of economic uncertainty?
That's a good question. First, I want to say, 我觉得保守党和自由党讲经济的时候呢，就是一模一样，就是 tax cuts, tax cuts. And to answer the host's question about how can the government afford these programs,
billions of promises.
These programs, then the question is, how come we can afford these social programs and economic programs rather than corporate tax cuts? Because over the past 13, 15 years, that's what our Treasury has been spending our money on. Tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts. And the NDP is saying we should use the common Treasury, which is through general tax revenues, to concentrate on social programs, but also on economic initiatives. And obviously one of the economic initiatives that Jack Layton and the NDP and I have been talking about is the sort of green auto shift, green auto plan, because obviously our manufacturing has suffered a lot.
Yeah, but that doesn't explain how you can pay for the billions of promises, though.
No. But
where did you get the money from?
By canceling the corporate taxes, because the question is, if we can afford corporate taxes, why can't we afford these other programs? It's just a matter of priority, and the NDP is saying our priorities should be on things that will lead to better economic prospects and also social well-being. And just to explain the auto program, it's using the government, a fund to subsidize the creation of hydro cars and whatnot.
Thank you. Now it's the turn of Mr. Brian Wilford. You want to talk about the economy?
With regard to the economy, when we asked who is the better fiscal managers, when the Liberal government came in 1993, we inherited a $43 billion debt. And all that debt was an accumulated one, obviously, the deficit of past Liberal and Conservative governments. And under Mulrooney, it went up far higher than it did before. The reality is that 33 cents of every dollar in 1993 was borrowed money. I don't know about you, but I don't run my household that way. So we were able to make some tough political choices, and in the end, we were able to reinvest. We were the first and the only G7 state to pay off the national deficit and to start paying down the debt. And so what happened is we were able to reinvest, for example, in 2005, $15 billion in the military, $10 billion for the greenest budget in Canadian history in 2005. We were able to invest in healthcare, $42.5 billion transfers to the provinces, and with 5 key guaranteed wait times that Mr. Martin had brought in. At the end of the day, we now have a government that took $12.5 billion surplus and now has gone into a technical deficit. I was parliamentary secretary to Mr. Martin and to Mr. Manley, both finance ministers. And it takes something to be able to take $12.5 billion and go a deficit in 2.5 years. Governing is about choices. And when it comes to making those choices, we have to reinvest, we have to pay down debt, we have to ensure that we never go back into a deficit. And so when you shave 2 points off the GST, it costs the National Treasury between $10 and $11 billion annually, and that's every year. Then it's no wonder that when they eliminated the $3 billion contingency fund that we put in for things like the SARS that came along or a mad cow disease, when we now have problems in the auto sector, the manufacturing sector, in the lumber sector, they cannot respond. So I think it's about who manages money best. It is all our money. It's taxpayers' money. And at the end of the day, when we talk about making sure that the money is there for investing in healthcare or for post-secondary education or whatever it happens to be, you cannot simply go and say, well, let's make a decision of eliminating 2% on the GST, of which unless you buy a yacht or a lot of coffee, I don't think you're going to save any money. It's income tax. And that's why we were the party in 2000 that brought in the $100 billion tax cut over 5 years. Investing in people, putting money back into people's pockets is important, and also having a good social conscience. And that is why we deal with strong social programs, and of course infrastructure. As a former president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, when you've got roads that are deteriorating, bridges that are collapsing, when you have a situation in this country where you need to invest, it was the Liberals under Chrétien and Martin that took the Federation's plan of 1983, which lay dormant under Mulroney, and we reinvested. We continued to do that, and of course we have again proposed, under the leadership of Mr. Dion, that we will work with the cities and with the provinces to advance, to have a strong economy, and that's what I believe Canadians want.
So Mr. Brian said that Liberal has a good track record. So what sort of track records does Conservative have? And especially, you're offering a lot of tax cuts. Tax cuts is, how can you avoid your government to fall into a deficit? Especially for our finance minister now, Jim Flaherty. He left the Ontario government with a number of deficits when Conservative government,
And he did indicate, by the way, that Ontario would be the last jurisdiction of which he would want some to invest in. And quite frankly, for the residents of Richmond Hill, when someone's unemployed or if a plant that's closed, to be telling somebody that this is the last jurisdiction to invest in doesn't go over very well. And at the end of the day, the track record he left in Ontario, unfortunately, he wants to duplicate nationally.
So we want the Conservative to respond to this. So can Conservative prove that with this good track record of Liberal, how can you prove to the Chinese community that you are a better fiscal manager in these times of economic uncertainty?
頭先我哋個朋友 Brian Wolfe 咧，佢講咧就係以前嘅總理，但係今時今日嘅總理咧，唔係今時今日嘅Liberal 嘅黨魁咧Dion 咧就好弱。佢就算講嗰個 Green Shift， 佢都自己喺開始講，同埋而家都改咗3、4次。咁樣再嚟緊呢幾個禮拜，會唔會再改佢嗰個 Green Shift？ 因為好多市民咧。睇佢個 Green Shift 嗰個政綱咧，都講到一頭霧水，都唔知講乜嘢。再加上咧，佢話我會打你多啲稅，但係咧，我會調翻轉頭會俾翻啲錢你。政府點會有錢俾你㗎？政府點會有多餘嘅 surplus 㗎？如果政府有 surplus 咧，兩個原因，一個咧佢打得你好多稅，另外一個咧係嗰個政府咧就佢嗰個 management 最好。自由黨啦，佢係出晒名啦，係話我會打你多啲稅，但係打稅另一件事喎，打咗稅好似我安省嗰個 McGinty 咧，佢話攞我哋嗰啲health tax 攞咗啲錢之後咧，用得一半嘅，其他一半嗰啲錢用咗去邊度咧？唔知道。所以所有嘅黨唔係話咩黨派，所有個黨話我要加你稅，咁我哋要搞清楚個黨話你攞我啲稅。點樣用㗎？你清清楚楚同我哋交代。
但係我諗選民都想知道你個黨減稅，我哋都想知道你減下會唔會減到我哋變赤字咧？
好簡單，好多移民同埋海外嘅朋友投資嚟加拿大，點解啊？因為加拿大打稅打得多啊，定係加拿大嗰個生意嘅 taxation 係好樂觀，所以你要第一你要俾一個 encouragement， 俾多啲朋友。海外嘅投資同埋已經喺加拿大已經做生意喺度，你要 encourage 佢點解我要擺多啲錢喺加拿大做生意，咁樣多啲工多啲生意喺度喺加拿大會ongoing 嘅，尤其是咧喺今時今日嘅經濟，我好似你睇一睇美國嘅呢幾日嘅大問題金融嘅問題，如果我哋再加稅。 咁樣咪多啲人冇工。所以我哋第一要搞清楚，我哋要安居樂業，個人有工做，個人啲生意要搞得好。如果你再加稅呢，人呢唔係喺加拿大做奴隸嘅，我哋有個 choice 嘅。所以我哋第一要唔係話你有咩事我要加啲市民加稅，最緊要呢，我要搞得我哋經濟要搞得最好。
OK， 多謝你。Mr. Jim Carriganis, you have some response.
You know, for somebody to come and invest in a country, they must see a country that has a sound economy, and they must see a country that is reaching out to from where you're coming to invest. We have a lot of people that are coming in to invest out of China. Unfortunately, the present condition of investment and the present condition of welcoming those individuals is not something that goes well to them. We're not promoting investment from other countries. Matter of fact, I think that this government is sort of chasing away investment. So for my good friend to say that investment from other countries will solve our problem, it certainly will not solve the problem of rising unemployment. It will not solve the problem of factory after factory closing, and certainly it is not going to solve the problem of people of Scarborough or people of Richmond Hill, my good friend Brian Wilford, or Markham Oak Ridges, that grows one. It certainly was not going to help our constituents. Our constituents are feeling the pinch. Our constituents are feeling the pinch when it comes to going to the gas pump. Gas under the Liberals, the maximum that was ever got was about 95 cents. And when we were hit with Katrina and it rose to about 35, there was a backlash immediately. And the Prime Minister immediately responded. Well, guess what? I filled up with gas this week at $1.39. The Prime Minister said, well, when I was saying that I could fix things, well, really, there's nothing I can do. So this is not a Prime Minister that you can certainly trust when he said one thing when he was in opposition and right now he says something else. So if I'm going to come to this country and invest, I have to make sure that there's a sound economy, and I've got to make sure that what the Prime Minister says you can take him at his word. Unfortunately, time and time again, you've seen that this Prime Minister speaks from both sides of his mouth.
Thank you, Mr. Jim Carriganis. 莫言有嘢想回應。
啱啱梁總生我啱啱想問保守黨就就係頭先阿袁海耀講咗就話因為保守黨係一個減稅嘅政策啦，而且咧就會即係話使呢個國家放開使呢個生活能夠保持一定啦。而家美國個經濟係呢個浪潮衝過嚟，雖然有暫時嘅好轉，但係未來一個過緊日子一定係大家已經感覺到啦。咁好啦，如果喺減稅之後，大家都知道呢一段時間。我哋一直在講係話安省已經變咗一個窮省，Mississauga嘅市長亦講安省或者係呢個密市都承受住係越嚟越艱難嘅呢個境地。咁請問保守黨喺減稅嘅情況下，點樣去面對安省所面對嘅困難，包括製造業所造成嘅困難，仲有就話我哋點能夠去使整個安省嘅經濟能夠得到刺激，去保持原來嗰個發展呢？
梁先生唔該，首先歡迎你嚟到我哋當中，雖然遲咗啲，遲到好過冇嘅話。
多謝你，我今日嚟知道嘅，因為我自己嘅所想情況咧，不過如果我教個問題咧，就係減稅有幾個好處嘅。減稅咧，第一我哋市民咧可以有多啲嘅稅收我哋再多啲嘅收入咧，可以攞嚟喺呢個所謂消費者呢方面咧，發揮我哋嘅嗰個經濟嘅循環。咁第二咧，如果你喺一個低稅政策嘅一個社會下面咧，你可以唔需要，你可以吸引咧外面嘅投資，可以吸引我哋市民嘅投資。咁呢一啲投資話咧，就係可以幫我哋製造更多嘅就工嘅機會。有咗呢就工嘅機會咧，我哋嘅社會、我哋嘅經濟先至繁榮。我哋係用呢一個方法咧嚟推動我個經濟，我哋先至能夠政府先係能夠多一個所謂基礎咧嚟俾你收稅嘅。呢個係一個好自然嘅做嘢方法。如果你係用政府嘅錢攞嚟等落去社會度咧，呢個係一個所謂變咗有副作用嘅。你根本就係到最後嘅話咧係等於個零。你用一個高稅政策嘅咧，你嗰啲經濟都唔會喺呢度再發展嘅。
但係你咪仲未回答我個問題，就話安省淪為一個窮省，咁你減稅保守黨，你承唔承認安省而家係一個窮省，同埋你點樣面對？假如保守黨當政呢？
阿無言，因為時間關係，俾阿 Brian 佢答得好難，俾佢講先。
Well, first of all, I want to make it very clear that the Liberal Party is the party that cut taxes, continually cuts taxes. The $100 billion taxes in 2000 over 5 years is a good example, but it's also about making choices. And when you privatize or when you cut away, as has happened in Ontario with Walkerton and water, when you see the listeriosis situation where you say, well, let companies simply do the investigation in terms of making sure that the quality standards are there. People expect their government. They expect their government to protect them and for public security in terms of ensuring that the quality of what is going on the table is safe. And therefore, cutting taxes, we saw that in Ontario under Harris. We saw what happens in the failure to deal with hospitals, the firing of nurses, the firing of doctors. The situation was not good. You can't do all one and not the other. You have to have a balanced approach. We continue to do balance. And as far as attracting investment is concerned, the government has no Asian strategy. We have developed and we have an Asian strategy that we are going to be implementing. And the Canadian Chamber of Commerce made it very clear that it came to China in their report in 2007 just how disastrous it was when in fact you poke your eye at your second largest trading partner and you simply say, we don't want to do business. Because we say there's 2,000 Chinese spies in Canada and things went down from there. And of course, we know that, and I deal with the Chinese ambassador all the time, both as the critic of foreign affairs and of defense now, I can tell you that people in my community tell me they've never seen so many doors closed. Things have not gone well. So when we're talking about tax cuts, we strongly believe in tax cuts, and of course, we have proposed tax cuts in our program, and we continue to do that. But at the same time, what kind of taxes? Income taxes. You shave 2 cents, I said, off the GST, cost you $10–11 billion for the National Treasury, not very much for return. So again, it's doing the right thing. It's having a strategy. It's understanding how you're going to invest, get people to invest here. Whether it's in major projects or whether it's on bilateral nature, you have to be aggressive. We're the party of multilateralism. We're the party that believes very strongly in doing that. The others can stand on their own. At the end of the day, you have to engage people. We engage people we don't necessarily like, but at the end of the day, we engage them because by doing so, we understand them better and we can move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Brian Wilford。
剛才咧自由黨嘅候選人咧提到GST 嘅時候咧，佢好似係唔贊成哈布蘭cut呢個 GST。我想問一問咧，就係當你哋再重新執政嘅時候咧，你哋會唔會贊成增加翻 GST 咧？
He would like to ask Liberal, if you get into power again, will you raise GST? Who would like to answer that? Jim or Brian? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Brian answer.
No, Lou raised his hand already.
We will not be cutting, going back on the GST. We said that we would not. And the blue machine can do whatever they like, can tell people that we will, but we've said it on the record that we will not, and they can turn blue in their faces, but we will still not roll back the GST.
Why?
The GST, we believe that, first and foremost, we believe that government policy is government policy. If we start building and tearing down every previous government's commitments, we will become a banana republic, and many of us are immigrants here, and we've come to this country because we believe in the strength of the country, and the strength of the country is not because it's changing back and forth, and I tear your house down, and you tear my house down, and I come back and tear your house down. That's not the way it works in Canada, and we will not allow it to work like that in Canada. And the 2% GST, well, most of you have not felt it, have you?
Why not?
So who's got the 2%? $12 billion. Where has that money gone? Well, it's gone to cutting all the programs, to cutting the court challenges, to cutting the language programs, to cutting women's issues programs, to cutting immigration, to cutting so many programs with 2%. 2%, which nobody has felt. I challenge all of you to tell me how much more money you have in your pocket since the 2% GST cut came in effect.
Tom
I
wants to-
don't see anybody raising their hand.
Oh, well, I see a lot of people raising their hand already from the Conservative side. So we just go for Tom Pang first.
I guess the bottom line is the Liberals, are you for or against the GST cut? Please don't speak from the both ends of your mouth. 你一係贊成，一係反對。Liberal 兩次投票反對 GST cut， 先頭都舉咗咁多個例，話呢個 GST cut 係唔啱嘅，係錯誤嘅。咁你到底係反對呢，定係贊成？ Yes or no? As simple as that.
Mr. Ginkgo-Jones? Just curious.
If I'm to buy a Mercedes-Benz and it's worth $100,000, the GST on that will be about $2,000. Unfortunately, I cannot afford a Mercedes-Benz. Tom, I'm not sure if you're driving a Mercedes-Benz, but if you are, under the Conservatives, you said $2,000. I drive a small little Neon that's worth about $12,000. $12,000 on a 2%, something like $200. If that $200 helps put programs back into play, if that $200 helps invest in schools, helps invest in programs after school, and it helps invest in making this country a better place, you know what? I'd rather personally pay the $200. If you want to save the $2,000 because you buy me, because
yes and no answer.
Sir, Mr. Banks, if you wish to debate, sir, I would ask if you to run as a candidate. You're not running as a candidate. This is not a debate. This is a round table.
Please let Jim Carrigan finish.
Tom, if you do that again, I'm going to send you out.
Tom, I take respect to you. You're an elder statesman in the community, and I have a lot of respect for you, sir, and your views. However, I'll tell you one thing. I personally would rather pay the $200 extra in my little Neon and make sure that the programs for the needy are there. If you still want to save your $2,000 on your Mercedes-Benz, so be it.
Thank you, Mr. Ginkgo-Jones. We have Ricky Chan from the Conservative Party.
Thank you. I have to apologize everyone for being late. I guess, as I step in here, I hear a lot of interesting discussion, and I realize I've been missing a lot. I guess, I want to put my 2 cents worth on the GST, Lou. Nobody can know the actual accounting of where the money go. But I don't know whether you've been into some of the federal government service lately. 2 weeks ago, I was in the passport office, trying to get a passport for my mom. I was in the Scarborough Town Center location. I put in 2 hours of parking meter pay, and I expect that's normal waiting time during the liberal time. As I walk in there, going through from the first interview to actually getting the
Can you just get more to your
Sure,
point?
no.
Okay.
It's only 15 minutes I'm being done. So that tells you how much the service has improved in the last little while since the Liberal. We all know that when the Liberal is in power, how long it takes to get a new passport when the rules change. People have to wait for 6 months and longer to get a passport. Brian, I got something for you as well. And you talk about the Chinese policy as well. Give me my 2 cents worth, okay? I'm late. But from some of the figures that we have, the trade with China have increased by about 39% and about 1.3 billion in the from 06 to now. And don't tell me that I myself do business in China. Is it difficult? Yes, it's always difficult to do business in China. But don't say that there's no policy. And there's a lot of issue out there when you're dealing with a country like China. And I'm a Chinese. I know how difficult it's doing business. And don't just badge the government and say, hey, you shouldn't say this and that. We all have our point of view, and doing business in China is good. Doing business is not as bad as what people think it is. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ricky Chan. And then we have the NDP from Andy, NDP candidate.
I just want to point out that in all the talk about the GST tax cuts is that no one has said that the GST and all the other income taxes have disproportionately benefited the rich. And that's where the NDP's concern over this, the whole slew of tax cuts is centered on, is that they, judging from past record, have been disproportionately beneficial to the rich. And no one has said that except the NDP, except me, and I want to point that out. It's a very important point that we should all be aware of.
Thank you, Mr. Brian Wilford.
I just wanted to point out to my friend over there that he was obviously congratulating us for the Service Canada that we established under the Liberal government to make things more efficient in terms of getting passports, etc. And of course, I don't know what time of the day he went in, but certainly the one-stop shopping that the Liberal government set up, I think, was extremely important, and it was an initiative obviously the Conservatives thought was a good one because they continued it. As far as doing business with China, I deal with diplomats all the time. I deal with people from the National People's Congress. I deal with people in Taiwan, and I can tell you that it's not so rosy. At the end of the day, you know, we don't want our competition to be getting ahead. We don't want the Americans, the British, the French, and others doing that. And we don't have a policy. If there is a Conservative government policy with regard to China, other than the Rob Andrews of the world who advocate Tibetan independence and slam the Chinese every time they get, if in fact it's the kind of policies that the Chinese government clearly has said that, you know, when we were the government, at least when we dealt with them on trade, we did sit down and talk human rights. And I was with Prime Minister Martin in 2005 in Beijing when he did talk about human rights directly. But anyone who knows about saving face, you certainly don't insult people and you don't insult them publicly. So when it comes to China, I don't take a back seat to anybody on knowing about China. And I don't take a back seat when I hear about what the Liberals have done. Yes, we support harmonizing. To answer the gentleman's question, the harmonizing of the GST and the PST has always been and continues to be Liberal policy. And if you look at what happened in Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island and others, you would know that that in fact is the policy of the Liberal Party. We would like to see that happen. A consumption tax is never the way to go. And any economist who's got a degree worth its salt knows that in fact income tax is the way to go, which is always why we have pushed income tax. So again, it's about balancing. I don't like to see situations where government abdicates its responsibility, where we have a listeriosis situation. I don't like to see a situation where in fact we say, well, China, very bad on human rights, but let's make a deal with Colombia that has probably one of the worst human rights records of all. Why did we do that? George Bush went to Colombia, and even they didn't sign a free trade agreement, but Mr. Harper did. So at the end of the day, I believe we need to be fair. We need to be honest about what is it we are doing. And the strategy is important. We have many people in this country who clearly want to do business, but again, you don't do business when governments are insulting each other or when Mr. Harper, unfortunately, maybe he was busy, but I don't understand why he did not go to the Beijing Olympics, and of course the Governor General couldn't go to the Paralympics. I think that was short-sighted, because one of the reasons you go there, we saw that even with Bush and Putin during the situation in Georgia, was that at least you can engage each other on the spot. I think engagement is important. I've always engaged this community and others, and continue to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Brian Wilford. Now we want to move on to different topics about carbon tax, because so many Chinese are concerned about carbon tax. We also heard that in our program.
I personally don't like the setting that you're putting in. It's not a carbon tax, it's green shift. So if you like to talk green shift, I'd be more than delighted to participate in the situation. If you want to talk carbon tax, I'm afraid that it's green shift.
Okay.
If you want to take a shot at the road, it's green shift. So if you want to call it such, we would appreciate it if you call it correctly. Thank you.
So do you want to address the green shift, which the Chinese are concerned about?
I'll let you finish your comments.
Okay. Chinese are concerned about the green shift plan that the Liberal governments are imposing in your platforms. They're concerned about in this sort of economic uncertainty. Why should we have such kind of taxation on carbon dioxide?
Myself and Brian Wilford shared the file of the environment. I was Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport with special emphasis on the environment. Brian continued, he became Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment, and we worked very hard to make sure that we do not, as a planet, borrow the environment from our children. We cannot afford to breathe the air that we want to leave for our children. It's very important that we as a country have a commitment. a commitment that addresses what is happening right now. 64% of our emissions come out of your tailpipe. A lot of people are driving SUVs, and a lot of people are driving bigger cars. Realizing that, unfortunately, the car is a means of necessity, when we said that we're going to be going into the green shift, we made it perfectly clear that we will not raise the price of gasoline, unlike the Conservatives in the last 2 years. We said that polluters would have to pay, and they would have to pay $10 per megaton over the next 4 years. We had the one-ton challenge where we engaged Canadians in order to reduce green gas emissions. What happens when the Conservatives came in? Automatically they scrapped that program. Programs that were under the Liberals got scrapped. Unfortunately, the environment has gotten worse in the last 2.5 years, so we need to take drastic measures, not only to make sure that polluters get taxed, but also to make sure that greener economies, greener industries are supported. And we do have something that we lost a long time ago in this country, a green economy as well as green industries.
Thank you, Mr. Janice. Now, Mr. Arjun has some response to your.
Thanks by letting me have the mic. The green shift is just another form of way how a government will grab more tax, and then its money may go to a la-la land. It's just like the Ontario, the health tax, what the McGuinty Liberal imposed to us. Like, they spend half the money in healthcare and a wonderful label say healthcare. We all worry about healthcare. We have a long wait time when we see a doctor, or a longer wait time when we go to emerge. The gasoline tax in a gas station, I don't know, Jim, I really beg your pardon that any one government can increase or decrease any pricing at a gas station. As far as I'm concerned, the gas price is international pricing. It's not just Canada can run at $24 per barrel versus the world is running at $100 per barrel. For the GST reduced to 2%, actually, you know what, maybe your friends are buying $100,000 or more Mercedes, but for me and my neighbors, where we live in Richmond Hill for the last close to 20 years, we recently spent or saved a lot of money when we changed our windows. The window that is more energy efficient and so forth, and that actually will help our environment, and that will help our economies. And that a government, as far as I'm concerned, government is supposed to encourage our citizen, anyone who care about environment, and give them the environment to build and to act on, to help our carbon emission and so forth. And more specifically, the Conservative Party is not there to punish the citizens, kind of like they're little kids, to say, hey, you know, if you do not behave well, I'm going to tax you more. Versus our Conservative Party say, we want you to put money, if you are not doing enough in carbon emission, we want you to put money in the fund, with a fund that you will control. It's not the money going to the government, it's money that you control, so subsequently you put into the R&D and subsequently you will reduce your carbon emission.
Thank you, Mr. Elections. Brian Riffett. Mr. Brian Riffett.
By a segue, I would say that the issue of pricing generally for consumers in Canada falls under provincial jurisdiction, and gasoline is no different. If a provincial government wants to freeze gas today, the price, or roll it back, they can do that. And there are those regulatory bodies that are in place in some of the maritime provinces like Nova Scotia. But regarding the green shift, it is about dealing with polluters and at the same time providing real tax cuts through income tax to Canadians. For example, if you are in the 15th percentile, you will drop your tax by 1.5%, so 13.5%. And you go to the calculator and you'll put in your income and you'll find out exactly what you're saving, $2,000, $2,400, depending on the number of children, etc. There are offsets, of course, $600 for low income, for the GIS, for guaranteed income supplement for seniors, for children, $350 per child up to the age of 18. But at the end of the day, it comes down to philosophy. As a former parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Environment, and as one who sat on the G8+5 international board dealing with the environment, it's whether or not you believe that there is a climate change situation here. Is there a crisis? And we know that Mr. Harper was even funded by anti-climate change groups in the past. He didn't believe in it. Well, Mr. Dion went out and said, listen, when he became Minister of Environment, I was given the job of getting the greenest budget in history, got $10 billion. We never had the finance minister on board to such a degree, and we did. We had the most successful climate change conference in history, and that was COP11. And again, some people don't believe we should work through the UN. We do. But at the end of the day, the green shift is about putting responsibility on polluters and at the same time providing the offset. So when we talk about the green shift, we can't talk about simply increased taxes on the one hand without looking very clearly at the issue of real income tax cuts, GIS, additional support for children, etc. Because it is unfair representation. And there is no increase at the DAS pump. And I'll just give you one last example. In 1992, the New Brunswick government reduced the tax by 2 cents on gasoline, and within 10 seconds probably the oil companies reaped the profit. So simply reducing the tax at the gas pump does not guarantee anything unless a regulatory, one of the things we advocate strongly is more teeth for the Competition Bureau, because that's where the federal government can play a very important role in ensuring that there is not collusion in the market.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. If the NDP's candidate has some response.
我就是要讲新民主党的环保的政纲就是 focus on punishing the polluters, because under our system we would set a quota of allowable pollution, and then if any company exceeds that quota, then then they would have to pay more. So it's a 比较公平的system, because obviously we want to punish the polluters more than the ordinary citizens who are faced with so many fees and so many rising costs, tuition and petrol prices and whatever. So that's one of the things that we want to do, which is focused on more of the polluters and not on the ordinary citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Ricky Chan?
I guess, my feeling about the green shift or green shop or whatever you want to call it, is that, the fact of the matter is that when you look at all the statistics, all the interview you've done with the average Canadian, they don't want it, they don't like it. The majority of Canadian doesn't want it. Look at what happened in British Columbia. They hate it when they get it. So it's very difficult that the Liberal is trying to yet try one more time, shove in our policy that Canadian doesn't want. So I hope if by any chance that the Liberal get in, you guys think twice about what to do with this carbon tax, green tax, or whatever you call it.
I think Mr. Brown wants some response. I think it's...
No, I wish to speak, please.
Who? Okay.
Look, we just heard a lot of mumbo jumbo on green shift, taxes, and GST. The reality is that so far the Liberal has not made it clear whether they're for or against the tax cut. We said we were going to put that at 5%, and when the question was asked, remember, he can answer whether he's going to raise it back to his original point or keep it at the point is, which is it? You can have it right away. Now, when it comes to green shift, all right, I respect your no inflator, but nevertheless, at the end of the day, it is a tax. It is a tax on energy. It is a tax on the carbon. So therefore, which permeates it through everything that you do in society. It is another form of tax which they are not using to put for a sustainable alternative energy development. They're using that as a mechanism to go and shift the funds for the lower tax scale so that they can buy votes. That's all it is.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Well, we're not in the buying vote business, and I find that comment absolutely reprehensible. I would point out very clearly that the emphasis for some of you seems to be on the pollution on the tax side, but don't seem to understand that there's actual tax cuts in the program. But it is a policy. It'll have to go. For those of us who are in Parliament, we know that any policy has to go through Parliament, and it may go through very machinations until it becomes law. But also to point out to you very strongly that at the end of the day, either you believe that there's a climate change crisis or there's not. We believe that there's a billions of dollar opportunity for green energy, for green technology, which we can import around the world, export around the world, and we intend to do that. But again, let's don't play politics here by saying on the one hand, oh, there's all about taxes and so sanctimonial about taxes. On the other hand, if you read it, maybe you haven't read it, If you read it, you will know that there are real tax cuts there, and those real tax cuts are very clear, and the offsets are there, and there are offsets. But at the end of the day, Madam Chair, it is a policy, and the policy would have to go through Parliament. It is about making the planet cleaner. It also deals with issues like health care, because of course we want to make sure that people have clean air, and also part of the money, and don't forget it will be revenue neutral, because the Auditor General, who is an agent of Parliament, is the one who will have to sign off, and if it isn't, then we would take the flak as a government.
Thank you, Mr. Brian. The NDP's candidate, Ms. Naheem Hawkins.
Hi, you have to talk about leadership and meeting absolute standards when you're talking about climate change, because we haven't made much progress in the last 2.5 years and the last 25 years. Jack Layton's Kyoto Plus bill was the world's first legislature to adopt science-based targets. He also set interim targets. By 2020, we should have a 25% reduction. By 2050, we should have an 80% reduction, and he'll work towards that. He also struck the all-party committee to result in the Clean Air and Climate Change Act. Jack Layton is somebody who will meet these targets, and they haven't been met. They haven't gone in the right direction. He's someone who's going to do what he says.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the Green Chief is an important policy. It's one of the center of the Liberal platform. So it has at least, to my understanding, 3 elements. The first element is the environmental element. The second element is the economic implication. The third element is the leadership. Whether you should put Green Chief as the major platform at each time of the election. From all the feedback we have from the radio, television, or even the polling, the citizens are not supporting it. Are we going to pursue it just because it's a good policy, according to Liberals' ideology?
Thank you. 各位哥有嘢回應係咪？我諗各位哥講完之後咧，我哋要轉下一個題目啦。
嗱，我主要嘅回應咧就係關於到呢個係華人投票同埋華人參政嘅問題，呢個主要嘅問題。先頭咧就古生同木棉咧都提到，亦都似乎咧就有啲係灰心，認為咧就係而家個方向好似失去咗。但係我哋嘅睇法就係，任何嘅華人投票同埋參與活動咧係要經過一段長嘅時間。咁我哋有信心同埋會睇到響加拿大過百萬嘅華人，只要響呢啲傳媒同埋在座各位嘅努力之下，大約10年內咧，我哋就會見到風起雲湧嘅華人投票同埋熱烈嘅情形。個情形就好似香港嘅一個例子一樣，之前大家都認為係政治冷漠嘅，而家大家都認為響香港嘅政治係投票方面係好成熟。咁另外一方面，我哋亦都講到就係華人以往嚟講都覺得自由黨同埋保守黨都係冇乜分別嘅。但係經過奧運之後，我哋就好清楚睇得到，哈珀作為總理，多年2年幾3年都未到過中國，亦都冇出席過嘅。咁就係有好大嘅分別，而亦都係點解中間嘅外交關係毫無進展。講到呢個係阿富汗戰爭方面，大家就會更加有大嘅分別。自由黨派出去嘅係和平維持部隊，而呢個保守黨派出嘅係地面戰爭部隊，就係咁樣，我哋大量嘅嘉賓就會有死亡啦。講到民生方面、入油嘅方面，我哋嘅自由黨雖然唔係當政，但係保守黨當政期間個油價係去到149，而家係依然徘徊響100幾蚊、100零蚊。但係我哋自由黨雖然唔係當政，大家入油嘅時候都會聽到油缸師傅聽下呢個係邊個呢？就係我哋嘅國會議員，係自由黨嘅國會議員，特別嘅努力係提供俾各位知道，油價而家係 幾多錢，我哋係監管緊嘅油價嘅。咁所以，我哋認為當大眾能夠多啲明白到自由黨嘅政策，特別係經濟方面嘅穩定嘅政策，亦都係加拿大唯一一個希望嘅時候，呢次嘅競選唔係一個無意義，而係一個重大嘅競選嘅意向。
嘅時候啦，到依家我哋唔少嘅即係聽眾啊，或者係我哋從華人社區聽到嘅聲音，都係覺得係喺哈柏上台之後，家中關係係惡化咗嘅，甚至乎頭先都有啲嘅嘉賓係提到就係話哈柏唔去北京奧運嗰個開幕禮，令到唔少人咧都覺得係好不滿嘅。咁如果係咁樣嘅話，一個保守黨政府又點樣可以係承諾到俾佢哋嘅選民睇到保守黨上台嘅話，家中關係真係可以改善得到咧？林中心，
我先講，我哋今日係講華人參政嘅問題，不過咧，其實我哋都入咗好多其他嘅講
我哋今日主要係講大選嘅議題。
嗰個大選嘅問題，我哋就稍微出奇一啲。喺呢個中加關係裏邊咧，呢個係一日一日咧要有進步嘅。我相信保守黨上台之後，我哋只要能夠喺嗰個經濟嗰方面，大家嘅經濟率係一路增加嘅話咧，呢個係就已經有進步啦。我可以提一提咧，啲自由黨喺 Tracking 之下有5次奧運，佢只係出咗1次。咁而家下翻嚟呢一次，我哋雖然佢可能係唔去或者其他嘅理由要準備大選，我哋唔知道呢個唔係佢唔俾面中國，我相信我哋仍然都有派代表出去。再跟住阿富汗嘅話咧，阿富汗佢嗰個3個最緊要嘅目的係第一個係國防，第二個咧係用外交去處理，第3個咧先至係用發展去處理。你唔能夠話今日惡化嘅完全嘅問題，完全係單方面嘅。嗰個惡化嘅方面咧係嗰啲遊擊隊嗰方面嘅。咁所以呢個係完全錯誤嘅，即係話呢個係加拿大國防政策係錯誤嘅。再加上油價嘅話咧，油價係一個世界嘅一個貨幣嘅幣值，你唔能夠話係因為啱啱係喺呢個我哋保守黨下邊咧油價起咁高，不過咧我哋暫時咧我哋仲係能夠保持到大家能夠俾得起個錢。如果你再行到用自由黨所推薦嗰個碳稅嘅話咧，你嘅油價咧再會加7個仙一公升，你有冇考慮到呢一點咧？
好多謝阿木賢咧，木賢有嘢講。
喺我講家中關係嘅問題之前，我先回應一下各位剛頭先講嘅。我覺得即係將油價嘅高漲算入呢個保守黨政府咧，就係有啲無稽之談。而且係自由黨嗰個國會議員不能夠準確咁樣預告咗油價飆升，唔等於佢能夠將油價降低，所以呢個概念係錯誤嘅。不過我問翻保守黨就話其實哈柏去唔去奧運唔係一個重要嘅事情。中國嘅領導都冇去參加咩奧運，哈柏亦唔一定話要去奧運一定要去。不過我就覺得，如果你哋哈柏一直講家中關係係進步咗係好嘅，或者係滿意嘅，咁我就好困惑啦。作為我來自於中國大陸嘅，我係睇到好多論壇上嘅大陸嘅讀者同埋移民都認為家中關係係倒退嘅，而且可能會成為國語社區投票一個考量嘅因素。呢個第一。第二，我哋唔攞奧運會嚟講，就係話喺中國嘅大使盧樹文到達咗加拿大之後，作為一個禮貌，加拿大嘅總理應該見一見呢個大使，同埋同大使進行一個探討，唔需要你去到北京或者同胡錦濤去談。但喺加拿大，哈柏總理喺年幾2年嘅時間都冇見呢個盧樹文，仲有就喺家中關係一個紀念會上面嘅一個咁多年嘅紀念會上面，我好清晰咁睇到呢係盧樹文參加嘅時候，只有一啲自由黨嘅國會議員參加，而作為政府方面呢係冇參加。咁呢點講俾我聽，家中關係係好咗，係滿意嘅，或者講俾嗰啲大陸移民聽，家中關係呢保守黨係做得好好嘅。
我哋請保守黨嘅 Ricky Chan。
無言，我覺得你提一個問題係好正確嘅。事關尤其是國語社區裏邊嘅我哋加拿大嘅公民咧，好多都係有個誤 解就話自由黨一定係會幫華人社區啊，保守黨唔會啊，呢個係叫做一個叫做係錯誤嘅觀點嚟嘅。至於頭先你講到話係老書民，我理解之中，佢當然唔係一嚟到即刻見佢，但係有見過面。新嘅中國大使嚟嘅時候咧，亦都即刻見咗面。咁呢樣咧係一個係學習嘅過程咧，話我認為哈佛政府保守黨裏邊一路係改進緊嘅，我絕對認同。同埋我最想反映嘅就話，如果你要將呢件事情話要將呢個保守黨現有嘅執政嘅觀念要更加多嘅改變嘅話，選到幾個華人嘅議員去惡作文咪搞掂咯，梁忠森啊、Benson Lau 擺埋上去就自然個問題一定會解決到㗎啦，係咪咧？
係咪就可以解決到咧？我哋一陣間討論下，係咪擺多幾個華人上去做國會議員就會解決到家中問題，或者係其他保障到華人嘅利益？一陣間我哋講，我哋俾阿 Jim Carrey Janice 回應咗先嚇。Mr. Jim Carrey Janice.
Well, Ricky, your wish, I reassure you, won't come true. Although you might be smoking something that I'm not sure what it is, I'll make sure that it does come true. I don't represent, although I'm of Greek descent, I just don't represent the Greeks in the House of Commons. So if I was to use Ricky's philosophy, that would be that if you're going to get elected to Scarborough Region Court, then you should represent the Chinese in the House of Commons. Folks, I have 75,000 people that vote for me. I have 122,000 constituents. I have the most ethnically diverse riding in the world. I just don't represent one particular ethnicity. I represent all. So if that's the philosophy of the Conservative Party, my Conservative opponent, as certainly reiterated by Mr. Ricky, that's clear. However, let's look at the history and what has happened. When the ice storm hit China last February over the New Year celebration, the Conservative government, even 8 people had died, did not send out a press release. Never mind support, never mind anything else. A press release. Our condolences. They didn't. I met with the ambassador just downstairs here and I said, Mr. Ambassador, have you had a word from the Prime Minister? Did you hear anything? No. When the earthquake happened, it took our Prime Minister a week to send out a press release expressing his condolences to the people, our second largest trading partner. Never mind the trade, to the hundreds of thousands of people that died, and the million people that were displaced. Other countries, poorer countries, responded. What was Canada's response? We'll give $1 million. And if it wasn't the push from this community, you, supporting me, push the government, they would not have matched dollar for dollar. They would not have spent immigration process cases as it was done through your tsunami. In tsunami, in the Pakistan earthquake, the government of Canada, the Liberal government of Canada put a protocol in. 1, expedite family glass applications. 2, match dollar for what the community raises. 3, make sure that you're there to listen to the community. When the earthquake happened, was the Prime Minister in a round table speaking to the Chinese community? I didn't see it. Did anybody else in this room see it? You didn't see it either. So, you need to make sure that 2 things happen. 1, you encourage your community to go out and vote. And vote wisely. Not because somebody is a particular ethnicity makes him the right candidate. Not because somebody is of another ethnicity does not represent your interests. I think by far, in my riding, I represented the interests of all the communities. And when push came to shove, time after time after time, I stood shoulder to shoulder with your community. And for somebody to say that I was not there, and therefore my community of Chinese should shun me because I'm not Chinese, I feel an embarrassment. It's not an ethnicity, it's policy. It is not because I'm Greek, I vote for a Greek, or if I'm Chinese, I vote for a Chinese. The issue is that you vote for the right individual.
Yes.
So to the people in my riding that are watching this, when you go and vote, look at the record. Look what party stood by you. Look what party is encouraging trade with our second largest partner. So for all of us around this table, it is not ethnicity. Indeed, the Liberal Party has Chinese candidates that are running, and we have had Chinese ministers and Chinese members of parliament. But in this time around, your main goal, and don't let it fail you, is to encourage the community, 1, to go and vote, 2, to vote wisely. This is what your mandate is. This is what your forum is all about. And to hear mumbo jumbo, in order to get more representation and better representation, we want to get more Chinese. Well, folks, I'm just wondering, are you borderline with discrimination? Think about what you're saying. This is a forum that through the web is being listened by other people. Think about the tone that you're setting for younger generations. Think about the message that you're passing to different ethnicities. I was at a forum once and somebody says, well, we're not able to participate, we should form our own party. You have 3 parties in Canada, 4, 5, or 6, and more to come. We need to engage each other in a positive role. And for people that say, no, I'm going to take my marbles and go home, then you're the loser.
Thank you, Mr. Jim Harrington. So we move on to whether Chinese should vote for Chinese. 我想問一問古慧學，頭先你一開始就問我呢個問題，你希望多啲嘅華裔國會議員咧可以入到去國會，去代表華裔嘅利益。但係頭先聽咗咁多嘅講者講，尤其是頭先 Jim Carrey 提到呢個問題嘅話咧，你覺得我哋係咪仍然需要有多啲嘅華裔嘅國會議員入去咧，定還是好似 Jim Carrey 呢啲咁樣嘅族裔都可以代表到華人嘅利益，唔一定需要選翻華人咧
I agree with James, the right person, vote right person. But I think all Chinese media, they have 所有中文傳媒唔需要某人嚟教訓我哋係唔係嗰個新聞報導係咪有歧視啊？係咪中文選擇？我諗呢啲 media 個個人都知道自己應該點樣行，所以我諗包括我自己嘅 media， 我覺得唔需要佢哋教訓我哋。OK， 第二呢。最悲哀嘅一件事咧就係我傳媒30年，傳統上中國人咧華人嘅社團任何活動都想請 politician 參加，覺得係佢哋嘅光榮，覺得我請到國會議員，哇，當佢神咁啊拜佢嚇，即係坐即係嗰個我guest table， 坐個 head table， 有free meal， 要捧佢話 honourable guest， 我係覺得呢啲係好即係唔係。顯示你個社團係幾要專業，而係覺得中國人係好卑下嘅，所以我哋對 politician 我哋唔需要搞，佢哋我哋選出嚟嘅 serve for us，right？ 所以傳統上我覺得應該扭轉華人對於 politician 嘅形象，唔需要咁我捧佢哋。咁啊第二咧，唔好忘記 politician 佢話佢有時 send 嗰個 brochure 俾你，或者參加你嘅嗰個所有嘅 banquet， 參加你嘅 event， 就會表示我 support 你，幫你做 nothing。你要真正做到嘢，做出嚟俾我哋睇先係。咁啊講到家中關係，我相信好多連大陸移民都未必認為總理唔去參加北京奧運就係歧視中國。7月幾我哋7月中奧運開幕前夕，總理要去到東京同胡錦濤主席要握手，要解釋話我點解唔去。所以好多時唔係話係即係大陸移民咁多個 campaign 話總理冇去，而係我哋自己嘅 politician 或者我哋自己嘅有偏見嘅位，將呢個問題將佢擴大嚟講。其實嚟講，即係我哋要睇問題一種比較客觀嘅角度嚟睇，就唔係從咁狹窄嘅啲。今日當然係今日係 Chinese media， 所以所有嘅 politician 都打中國牌。希望你中國人支持我啫，係嘛？但係我覺得我就睇問題睇清楚啲。你打中國牌，話乜嘢都話因為奧運唔係奧運，所以經濟落後，家中關係惡化。我唔覺得係咁，所以我哋睇嘢可以比較客觀嚟睇問題。Thank you。多謝古慧學先生，你頭先提出第三點就係話，唔少嘅政黨都係想爭取華裔選票，因為睇到華裔有超過100萬嘅選票嘅力量。但我哋華人社區有冇發揮到呢個選票嘅力量咧？冇，似乎係冇啊，因為大家都話個投票率低喎。我哋唔好，我 我哋唔好話，當然我哋唔好話懷一定要選懷，但係如果嗰個選區裏邊，如果嗰個懷係唔錯嘅，我哋唔好俾人即係 mislead 咗話，誒你懷選懷就係因為你Chinese vote，點解又係咁多人佢哋去當選到啦？我哋覺得係應該選呢個 right person 冇錯，但係即係如果成個局勢你唔可以扭轉過嚟咧，你如果 no representative、no voice、no voice，nobody care about your community。
好，多謝郭華先生。好，我哋聽下 Ricky Chan，如果係咁樣嘅話，華裔點樣可以發揮到選票力量，俾唔單止係保守黨，其他政黨睇到，我哋嗰票係可以改變嗰個選舉嘅結果，先至可以係有真係我哋真真正正嘅力量啊！
華人投票呢樣嘢咧，我想遲一步先講。But what I want to respond to first of all is to Jim's comment. Jim, at no time did I suggest that Chinese should vote for Chinese. You know, like Jim, I know you for a long time. I respect you. You've done a lot of good work for Chinese community and other communities. You know, what I was saying, like the fact of the matter, if you look at the poll, look at everything, the Liberal will not likely come back to form the next government. And if what I was saying, like if everybody's complaining about like the current administration of Conservative is not being sympathetic to the Chinese view, you know, the easiest way to change the mind is that get to the dinner table so you can get a piece of the steak, you know. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? And Jim, respect you very much. In fact, you know, like I wish the Conservative have a chance to recruit you. You know, you've done so much for Chinese, you know. And on the issue about the matching fund, you know, like I know that you've done a lot of work. You've been at a lot of the fundraising and support and doing a lot of work inside. But don't try to underestimate the work that people like Tom Pang and Jolie done. They've been lobbying to the Prime Minister's office and say that we should match fund as well. And we have done our share as well and trying to make this happen. You can complain about how quickly they respond. I accept that, you know, but at the end of the day, the matching fund was there, and the people suffering from the earthquake had benefit from it. Okay.
Mr. Jim Cheriton.
Ricky, I would ask of you to either probably roll the tape back or something. I gave congratulations to this community for pushing the Harper government to match the funds. I got a real difficulty, folks, when we encourage people to vote along ethnic lines. I got real difficulty when we don't look at cultivating what we have. There is Chinese candidates that are running for the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP, probably the Green Party. I think what you got to look at is how this community, this group, and I reiterate this is your mandate. One, to make sure that you encourage people to go out and vote. Two, to encourage people that they vote in their own conscience and in the right way. Should you fall into the trap of saying to your community, vote along ethnic lines, I don't think you're serving them, and I don't think you're serving them right. In that respect, I thank you for inviting me. Unfortunately, I have another commitment. I did say to you that I'll stay up to the end. I think I stayed longer than any other candidates. I've worked with this community a long time, be it on all fronts. I will continue to work. And Ricky, you're more than delighted. You're more than welcome to come to the Victory Party. We've got a hard-working campaign, and all those of you that believe in me, you're more than welcome to come. Folks, I leave that with you and wish you a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Jim Cheriton.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Lau Sui-Ngok.
Jim, can you stay for my speech?
I will, sir. I will do. Listen, I owe you that honor. I owe you that honor.
Thanks, Jim. Basically, when the campaign started, Stephen Harper picks visit the family in Chinese family in Vancouver as the kick-off the campaign, and also I believe that Stephen Harper spent most of his time in Ontario for the first 2 weeks. That's something that means Conservative Party, maybe Stephen Harper, really taking serious about the Ontarians' votes. At the same time, Ontario People Democracy has clearly stated that the Constitution must pick a candidate who really protects the Ontarians' interest. So in 2 big parties in Canada, I believe that they're all taking serious about Ontarians' votes, because it's close to 1/3 of the seats in the Parliament. And my personal feeling that these 2 parties be serious about Ontarians' right, Chinese right, and then do what you say, not just the cosmetic painting, because we don't like those lies or any hollow promises. That's my speech. Thank you.
Thank you. 文世昌。
Thank you.
回應翻頭先講到即係華人參政嘅問題。咁我哋大家都知道咧，呢個選舉其實係一個國會議員嘅選舉嚟嘅啊。雖然大家嘅焦點可能擺咗喺黑白或者係迪安嘅領導能力，國會議員嘅選舉其實係選民意代表啊。民意代表最重要嘅一樣嘢就係話嗰個區嘅候選人能夠進入國會嘅時候咧，佢係咪最能夠反映嗰個區嘅民意啊，或者嗰個政府啊同佢市民之間關係？所以我又好贊成咧，即係喺呢個時間咧，大家既然呢個係一個 Chinese Canadian Political Action Committee， 我覺得應該大家集中咧就講下今次嘅華人參選同以前華人參選有咩唔同？我哋可唔可以努力有啲突破啊？有冇更加好嘅策略咧？能夠多啲華人出嚟投票啊，多啲華裔嘅候選人咧，係令到所有嘅華人都認識佢哋啊，使到佢哋可以有得選擇。一個做得好耐嘅議員未必係一個好議員啊，一個長期受到歡迎嘅政黨亦都可能會落台。所以我希望咧，每一個華人咧都能夠集中去睇一睇佢哋嘅候選人。尤其是係代表有可能更加代表性嘅華裔候選人，佢哋嘅政綱係點樣？佢哋過去做咗咩嘢？俾佢哋一個鼓勵啊！今次選唔到唔緊要，最緊要就係華人爭氣啊，出嚟投票，用佢嘅嗰個明智嘅選擇，使到無論呢個黨咧都知道華人投票嘅記錄係增加咗。咁下次嘅時候咧，更加重視我哋華人。我覺得呢樣係個衷心嘅祝願。
多謝文世昌，文先生。
1947年，我们的前辈，华人的前辈，好不容易争取到我们有投票的权利，那是1947年开始。那么就后来我们就接下来就有我们的第一位华人议员，联邦议员的上。那么在这种情况之下，我们的前人帮我们争取到我们投票的权利，我们今天为什么不去用它？那么这么从1947到今天这么多年下来，我们华人在这里的投票率一直没有增加，就是说增加的不够快。我们移民进来的人越来越多，但是我们投票率并没有增加到多少。那么我们大家也知道，投票这是我们的权利，我们的义务。那么同时我们要注意到，投票不光是那么简单。投票投那一张票后面有很多的意义，那么其中有个就是你们大家都晓得，几个政党现在对我们华人是非常的重视。那么8月8号的时候，我们的移民部长来到多伦多，给了这个超过1000万的这个 funding， 那么这些 funding 都是替我们移民服务的。那么事实上这个1000万里面，事实上是从1.4个 billion。CIC 给了我们1.4个 billion， 这个11.4个 billion， 我们华人的比例占了多少？我不认为超过3%，而我们华人，刚才有人说过，我们华人是3.9%，但是我不认为他的钱用到我们身上，是因为我们并没有去极力的争取。那么现在在这个选举。10月14号，我们也看到我们有很多的华人候选人，这是一个好现象，比以前好得多。那么刚好我们在 GTA， 我们有2位华人保守党的候选人，这是一个很好的机会，因为我们可以注意到，保守党这一次的机会很大。那么假如我们能够把这2位华人的保守党候选人获取到政党进到 MP 的話，你可以知道他們絕對是我們的 minister。謝謝。
好，因為時間關係，剩翻大概係7分鐘嘅時間，請大家咧盡量簡短，因為仲有好多人想講嘢。木賢先好冇？睇到啦。
我覺得大家一直喺度講華人投票率嘅問題，咁我啱啱介乎於粵語社區同國語社區之間。我覺得大家可能會覺得國語社區嘅人喺投票方面做得唔夠好或者唔積極，但我又想問下在座嘅咁多位，或者係我哋嘅服務社區或者參選，係咪到參選嘅時候先嚟臨急抱佛腳？或者我係關心國語社區，有幾多個人喺5月23號呢個Dundas Square 嘅時候嗰個西藏 嘅表達國會社區表達嘅嗰個集會上係出現過呢？或者有幾多人喺大陸移民自殺啊？佢哋家庭需要嘅時候，我哋社區嘅呢啲人係出現過呢？其實而家係一個無可唔能夠否認嘅一個事實，就係粵語社區同國語社區個分離太大啦。好多時候係到選票嘅時候先話國語社區你應該點樣做，應該係支持。但係平時國語社區嘅好多活動，我哋呢啲粵語社區嘅社團嘅頭面人物有幾多去參與過呢？大家問呢個問題，先知道佢再想點解投票率咁低，點解咁多年嚟國語社區同粵語社區個交融達唔到一個理想嘅程度？
好，彭義德，點解投票率咁低？係咪呢個問題呢？
唔係
冇事㗎，大聲啲就得㗎啦。
clarification 啊 ，Ricky， 我哋社區有好多人做咗啲嘢啦，好多嘅事情大家都唔知嘅。我喺呢度想 clarify 兩點。第一個，我未問準過佢嘅有關嗰個3000萬呢簽分喺背後同聯邦政府勸聯邦政府咁做嘅，今日喺我哋在場 Alex 從嚟冇同任何人講過佢點樣同聯邦政府要求嗰3000萬嘅簽分。另外一個 Jason Kenney 又係喺報紙裏登過嘅，嗰2000個帳篷運去四川Air Canada 免費運呢，係 Jason Kenney 私下去同 Air Canada negotiate 嘅結果。Alex 冇應㗎嘛？
好，跟住 Jeffrey Lan。
我諗關於華人究竟係應該投華人票呢個問題咧，即係頭先各位都即係討論咗好多。咁我就想補充一點咧，其實我覺得華人最重要問題咧，就係佢哋對於政策方面其實個了解亦都係唔夠深入，即係可能係佢哋日常工作太忙，或者係忙於係新移民嚟到係嚟 settle down 呢個問題。我相信即係大家其實各位喺傳媒嘅前輩都會同意呢一點。其實最緊要就係一個選民，佢好清楚個政綱，亦都清楚自己華人嘅身份之後，決定係投俾邊一個。最後係咪投俾華人呢？即係其實我覺得，如果佢哋係做一個好好嘅研究，真係有諗過嘅時候，我覺得呢個唔緊要，即係每個人可能有唔同嘅抉擇。咁但係我就睇翻頭先個辯論，譬如關於自由黨Green Sheep 個政綱，我聽到好多即係保守黨或者嘅評論，就係將佢簡化為一個加稅嘅政策。咁或者係頭先講到經濟，咁亦都有一啲朋友就係話保守黨就係減稅。咁其實保守黨喺嚟緊呢個大選裏面，究竟佢提出減稅嘅政策有幾多？自由黨提出可以減到各位入息稅嘅政策係幾多？咁其實即係我哋江省加拿大自由黨協會咧，就係即係其中一個目的都係希望即係同大家各位傳媒嘅前輩係合作，即係希望等華人係清楚了解自由黨方面嘅政綱啦。咁我即係如果係各位係覺得係有需要係作詳細嘅討論，等大家華裔選民增加了解咧，即係我哋係非常之歡迎，即係希望亦都有咁嘅機會向大家去一齊交流。
好多謝你啊！最後咧，我哋請嚟台山同鄉會嘅黃裕信博士嘅。
我係 Patrick Wong， 係台山同鄉會現任嘅會長嘅 President。今日我好高興睇到呢個華人參政會組織到呢個咁熱烈嘅咁嘅對各種問題每一個政黨佢發表咗佢嘅有部分嘅政見，但係仲有啲嘢咧，我哋仲係好清楚嘅，即係當為我哋台山人咧the Taiwanese Canadian is the earliest immigrant to Canada, right? And head taxpayers, most of the Taiwanese Canadians pay. 咁我哋台山嗰啲老華僑包括我老豆、我阿爺嗰一代咧係捉太平洋鐵路同埋呢個人口稅嘅 嘅付出者，係受害最深嘅一族，係移民嚟加拿大最早嘅一族。咁我哋受到嗰個排華法案嘅影響咧，雖然呢個往日咧黑白政府咧已經對人頭稅咧作出道歉同埋有啲補償啦，咁樣，但係對華人社區嘅補償咧係勾嘅，就僅係嗰500萬咧係足遠啲唔夠嘅，去表彰同埋將來華人社區嘅紀念同埋教育排華法案唔再重演500萬建一個博物館係遠遠唔夠，而且將來喺教科書上邊使華人再到受到歧視，包括我老豆我爺嚟到嗰度咧，老婆仔女唔准嚟嘅，咁嗰啲係以前歷史上係保守黨造成嘅，但係保守黨而家平反咗，但係咧再唔重演咧呢個教育呢個基金對華人社區嘅補償咧，呢500萬係遠遠唔夠，我哋仲係要繼續去做好呢樣工作。我覺得咧，同時咧咁樣對於減稅啦，咁樣將嚟嘅經濟，我哋嘅民生問題，伊拉克嘅戰爭係嘛？咁我哋好多時候聽到 bad news， 加拿大嘅士兵已經犧牲咗，咁樣我哋嗰啲納稅人係咪要俾多咗好多稅出嚟咧？咁呢啲嘢係點樣去解釋嚟將來去減稅咧？希望每一個參政嘅候選人，無論自由黨嘅、保守黨嘅 ，OK， 都要考慮一下我哋華裔家人嘅感受，同埋點樣真正係為我哋華裔家人同埋為全加拿大嘅選民去做我哋做得最好。同時咧，我哋啲好少啲青少年面臨住而家呢個，包括而家嘅議題裏邊有槍案啊，包括啲治安問題啊，我哋啲青少年點樣能夠使到我哋華裔嘅家人喺呢度納咗咁多稅，我哋啲仔女嘅下一代唔再受歧視，唔再受到呢個排華法案嘅影響，咁我哋又有健康嘅活動好嘅去處。咁樣我哋咧，我自己個人嘅意見，希望咧大家都要留意我哋華裔家人嘅權益。點解咧？我哋唔係話係華人就要選翻華人，但係咧華人的確喺國會啊，係我哋嘅華人嘅省議嘅國會議員太少啦，嘅比例係太少啦。我哋好希望多啲華裔家人加入去呢個陣營。但係呢個喺呢個過程當中咧，我哋希望每一個人都注意點樣增加我哋嘅稅收，就係要增加我哋對外來嘅投資。中國嘅而家中國關係，中國佢嘅經濟嘅發展能夠好成功，我哋好多中港台嘅移民，佢哋投資好多錢喺呢度，我哋吸納佢哋，我哋中國關係得到加強同埋改善咧。咁我想我哋會更加同伴我哋加拿大嘅經濟，有咩唔好咧？係嘛？所以我哋每一個候選人，我希望我表示你哋嘅態度，等我哋每個會員有我哋嘅選擇。OK， 多謝大家。
多謝你。好。過時㗎啦，不過咧，我見到NDP 嘅 candidate 想回應少少 ，so we are already over time. Could you please just round up like in 30 minutes, 30 seconds?
頭先嗰個錯誤要糾正下，唔係保守黨造成嗰個投稅㗎，呢個係一個自由黨，係自由黨，
其實自由黨政府㗎，
各位。以前人流稅咧，又係保守黨唔俾 ，OK， 啲人俾㗎嘛，係嘛？唔該。歷史問題我哋年輕，我哋唔識㗎 ，OK。由歷史睇。
咪住 ，OK， 糾正一樣嘢，事實上係自由黨政府提出人頭稅嘅，聯邦政府提出人頭稅。
排華法案咧，唔俾。
都係自由黨嘅。
OK。
Go ahead.
OK， Nadim, go ahead.
The NDP is an inclusive party, and we bring women into the party, and we bring minorities into the party, and we make sure they're involved. You can become involved all year long, and we'd love to have you with us. And
OK, thank you, thanks a lot. 好，多謝晒咁多位參加我哋今日嘅論壇。咁樣咧，兩句好啦，最後啊，如果
回應嗰啲回應咗啦。其實我就想講一樣嘢咧，就係 for the balance 嘅啫，就基本上咧就在座好多位咧，好似阿 Jeffrey 啊 Walker， 我哋都係希望多啲華人參政。其實咧，我作為一個唔非傳媒嘅人咧，我就好希望咧，我哋尤其是華人傳媒咧，就唔好為啲過分圍於係叫做我哋叫 balance approach。要平均，咁有時咧就反而對我哋啲華人嘅候選嘅 candidate 咧，反而個報導啊同埋個 coverage 反而就少咗。我見到過往咧係有嘅過分小心嚟處理我哋華人候選人嘅，其實對我哋華人候選人好不利，尤其是喺華人社區。Okay?
好多謝你，好多謝晒咁多位參與我哋今日嘅呢一個嘅大選龍門陣啦。咁希望大家都係有啲傳媒朋友在座嘅話，可以 係秉承咧，你哋係作為一個傳媒嘅喺今次報道嘅大選方面咧，亦都咧相信你提到咁多嘅政見方面啦，咁亦都咧係相信華人咧，亦都係大家喺自己嘅崗位上面咧，係希望能夠有更多嘅華人咧係參與今次嘅大選嘅投票，直至咧係能夠令到咧華人嘅選票真係發揮佢哋嘅力量㗎。咁多謝咁多位。
或者我哋請阿 Peter 作一個少少嘅 summary。
係，我哋都想請阿陳嘉蓮咧係支持嘅。
係其實第一樣嘢點解我要起身呢？因為要起身先表示對你哋尊重嚇，即係好多謝各位今日真係嘥咗咁多時間嚟幫我哋去建立一個論壇，同埋去建立一啲好好嘅提議。咁啊，我應該為自己鼓下掌，好唔好啊？多謝各位。咁我嘗試用幾分鐘去 summarize 我哋所聽到嘅。主要我都係希望可以即係環繞喺華人社區入邊所比較上即係有興趣嘅嘢啦。嗱，第一方面咧就係頭先，如果我哋睇到嗰啲問題咧，我做咗一個即係非正式嘅一個統計咧，就發覺到咧其實有一個好大嘅即係關注嘅嘢咧，就係咩咧？就係今次大選入邊嗰啲政黨嘅黨綱咧、政綱咧係唔清楚嘅。好多嘅大眾咧 ，even 喺傳媒嗰度咧，都唔係好清楚其實嗰啲嘅政綱其實係啲乜嘢嘢，冇一個詳細嘅解釋，亦都唔夠完整。咁呢個係第一個。咁所以我相信咧，如果傳媒能夠將呢樣嘢提咗出嚟，等呢啲嘅政黨可以喺未來嗰個嘅競選期間咧，可以詳細登出嚟，呢個就好重要啦。咁啊，好多謝大家幫忙嘅呢樣嘢。第二點咧就係講及到嗰個嘅華人嘅投票率嘅問題。咁呢度已經其實有好多已經講咗㗎啦。不過最主要就係話華人咧，基本上嚟講嗰個嘅投票率係唔足咧，有好多嘅原因。一方面政黨嘅入邊解釋佢哋政策唔清楚啦，第二方面華人對自己嗰個嘅投票嗰個嘅權力同埋權利所能夠達到乜嘢效果咧，仍然都唔係好有呢個嘅信任啦。第三方面咧就係呢啲嘅候選人咧係未曾真正去鼓勵華人投票啦，包括咗平時能夠可以做多啲嘢，平時去為佢哋更多服務，就平時咧去敲門，就唔係喺而家嗰幾個星期先至敲門咁樣樣。咁另外一方面咧，你亦都睇到咧就話議席嗰個不合比例，本來應該15席，而家得5席，或者根本嚟講實際上講咧應該3席。咁所以咧應該鼓勵更多嘅華人咧去參選，但係呢部分其實係好困難。原因咧就係真正有興趣參選嘅人咧，係需要好多華人支持，去鼓勵佢哋出嚟先至肯出嚟㗎。咁所以呢個亦都係一點。另外一方面咧，就係應唔應該投華人候選人一票咧？咁樣樣，似乎整體嚟講咧，都認為咧就係華人候選人咧係值得考慮嘅。咁同時咧係呢個考慮嗰度咧，可以考慮到佢哋嘅背景。咁當然另外一方面咧，就係真正去投票嘅時候咧，佢哋應該嚟講，亦都係未考慮到嗰個能力。咁所以有能力嘅者當之，不論佢係呢個嘅華人或者係非華人咧，呢部分咧都應該去留意到嘅。咁另外一方面咧，亦都有呢個嘅人話咧，就係呢個嘅候選人咧，只係叫人捐錢嘅啫。咁所以可能喺呢個嘅候選人嘅嗰啲嘅 website 度咧，就應該再考慮下點樣安排啦。咁所以呢部分咧，希望媒介嘅朋友咧，同埋呢個黨嘅代表咧，可以翻去將呢個信息咧，去睇下點樣參詳研究一下啦。咁另外一方面咧，就係喺呢個嘅過程入邊咧，其實認為咧呢個嘅政府咧係好重要嘅。咁點重要法咧？就係因為政府嘅政策咧，現時嚟講咧，就係唔能夠可以真正令到好多人咧真係了解到嗰個工作佢哋做咗啲咩嘢。咁或者其他啲黨亦都應該同樣係向呢啲選民平時去等佢哋了解，其實佢哋做咗好多嘢啦咁樣樣。有一樣嘢咧，亦都係好重要嘅，仲有3點。仲有一點咧，就係喺嗰個嘅華僑嗰度咧， 其實好多老華僑咧認為咧應該喺個稅收嗰度咧係同嗰個得到嘅服務咧應該係有一個嘅合乎嘅比例，咁所以呢個亦都係一個嘅好重要嘅一樣嘢。另外一方面咧就係講及到華人嘅尊嚴嘅問題啦，咁認為咧就係華人嘅尊嚴咧應該係仍然都係保持翻，咁所以咧喺嗰個嘅過程入邊咧應該個個都平等。咁呢部分咧或者請你睇睇我哋而家嗰個排位嗰度咧，你就可以考慮到我哋都考慮到呢點嘅問題啦。咁當然其實喺呢度咧我哋亦都話呢個嘅議會嘅國會議員啦，或者省議員咧，佢哋都係公僕，或者佢其實都唔想係即係被特別去即係對即係所謂招待嘅，係嘛？咁所以咧喺兩方面嘅了解之間咧，咁所以可能第日咧大家會向住一啲更實際嘅問題啦，去大家互相溝通，咁同時更實際嘅問題咧，去互相去幫助一齊去解決建立呢個更好嘅加拿大。好，多謝各位。
好多謝陳家瑩先生，我哋咧總結咗今次嗰個嘅龍門陣啦。咁咧10月14號咧就係聯邦大選嘅投票日，咁亦都希望咧各個唔同嘅崗位嘅朋友，唔單止係候選人啦、傳媒嘅朋友啦，以至到係一啲嘅華裔嘅政黨代表咧，都可以喺你哋嘅職責上面咧盡忠職守啦。咁樣咧就喺今次嘅大選咧，係大家一齊共同目標咧，係為華裔嗰個投票率咧係盡自己嘅努力咧去提高華裔嘅投票率啦。多謝晒咁多位。
Thank you everyone。仲有一樣咧，就係我哋好多謝東東大卷王贊助我哋今次嗰個嘅活動。佢係無條件嘅，所以佢亦都冇要求我哋即係咁宣佈。不過我哋都希望多謝佢。多謝。